Chapter 35-34. Battle. However, facing the attacks of the surrounding people, 8-Axe Master merely smiled coldly. The huge axe in his hand suddenly drew a beautiful scar in the air, forming a huge axe shadow. It swept away the attacks of these Principles Masters with ease. So powerful! We have so many people working together, yet he managed to sweep them away with a single axe? He's too powerful. We can't stop him at all. The expressions of these Principles Masters were extremely unsightly. Their attacks were unable to stop 8-Axe Master, and they were not even able to obstruct 8-Axe Master. They could only watch as 8-Axe Master approached the Poluo God component. 8-Axe Master appeared in front of the Poluo God component, and he waved his hand. He was about to put the Poluo God component into his interspatial ring. The surrounding Principles Masters all had helpless expressions on their faces. But at this moment, a scarlet sword light suddenly lit up beside 8-Axe Master. What? 8-Axe Master's expressions suddenly changed. This sword light had appeared too suddenly, and its angle was extremely tricky. As soon as it lit up, it stabbed toward his throat. Most importantly, that sword light was too fast, so fast that he could not swing his huge axe in time to block it. Moreover, this sword light contained an astonishing piercing power, which made his heart palpitate. He did not dare to face it with his godly body. There was nothing he could do. 8-Axe Master could not be bothered to retrieve the Poluo God component anymore. Instead, he retreated hastily. With this rapid retreat, he once again widened the distance between him and the Poluo God component. At this moment, a figure appeared beside the Poluo God component like a ghost. Then, with a simple wave of his hand, the Poluo God component had already fallen into his hands. This sudden change caused the surrounding Principles Masters to be somewhat stupefied. They had originally thought that no one present could stop 8-Axe Master, and that the Poluo God component was bound to fall into 8-Axe Master's hands. Unexpectedly, at this crucial moment, someone had suddenly appeared beside 8-Axe Master. Furthermore, he had forced 8-Axe Master to retreat, and he had obtained the Poluo God component. The three most shocked ones were the Heavy Master, Saber Python Master, and Purple Sound Master. They had clearly seen the other party's appearance. It was Jian Wushuang who had cast the space-time domain behind them. It's Blood Sword Master. It's him. Isn't he behind us? When did he run to the Poluo God component? The Heavy Master, the Saber Python Master, and the Purple Sound Master could not help but turn around. They found that the void where Jian Wushuang was previously was empty. However, when did he leave for the Poluo God component? No one noticed him at all. The shadowless escape art at the exceptional level is very useful. Cultivators below the 6 realms of the void, as long as they are not particularly good at soul perception, can hardly detect my presence, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. He had learned the shadowless escape art in the Temporal Temple. It originated from the Blood Sword Master, a very terrifying Principles Master in the Temporal Temple. When the shadowless escape art was used, it could disappear without a trace. It could hide from the soul detection of a cultivator. Jian Wushuang had mastered the shadowless escape art long ago. He had not relied on it to kill or escape from enemies during battles on more than one occasion. For example, when he was adventuring in the Blood Wave realm, he had relied on the shadowless escape art. At that time, he was recognized as the best assassin at the saint level in the Divine Beginning realm. However, at that time, his mastery of the shadowless escape art was still in the initial stage. Even if he had mastered it later, he could only hide it from the soul detection of some Principles Masters of the 3 or 4 void realms. However, not long ago, during the 600 years that Jian Wushuang had been in seclusion in the Star Palace, he had finally mastered the shadowless escape art to the perfect level. The shadowless escape skill at the perfection level was not much weaker than the Blood Sword Master at his peak. Under normal circumstances, only Principles Masters above the 6th realm of the Void realm could sense it, or experts at the 5th realm of the Void realm, who were particularly good at soul perception, could sense it. Just now, when everyone was fighting for the Poluo God component, Jian Wushuang had actually moved. However, he had used the shadow escape skill to move forward, so no one noticed his existence. It was not until 8-Axe Master approached the Poluo God component and was about to take it into his hands that he made his move decisively. He forced 8-Axe Master back and took the Poluo God component himself. I'm sorry to have wasted your time. Jian Wushuang looked at everyone with a smile. However, except for Heavy Master and the other two from the same camp, the other principal's masters all looked at him with fierce eyes. Especially 8-Axe Master, whose eyes were full of killing intent. How dare you snatch food from my mouth? You're courting death. 8-Axe Master growled. His aura suddenly soared, and in an instant he charged toward Jian Wushuang like a furious beast. Wherever he passed, the air was forced back by the overwhelming killing intent. Blood Sword Master, be careful. Heavy Master shouted. Let's go. The principal's masters from the other camps would not give up just like that. They charged forward one by one, but their target was no longer 8-Axe Master, it was Jian Wushuang instead. Quick, stop them. Saber Python Master growled. In an instant, he joined hands with Heavy Master and Purple Sound Master to find a way to stop the principal's masters around them. With their strength, with the help of the space-time domain, more than half of the principal's masters around them were successfully stopped by them. However, 3 people still broke through their obstruction, especially 8-Axe Master, who was in a rage. No one could stop him. Seeing 8-Axe Master and the other 2 principal's masters who had reached the 5th realm of the void, Jian Wushuang just smiled faintly and disappeared in front of everyone. Disappeared? Damn it, where did he go? The 2 principals masters of the 5th realm of the void looked gloomy. They scanned the surroundings with their soul power, but they could not find any trace of Jian Wushuang. As for 8-Axe Master, he also released his soul power, trying to find Jian Wushuang, but he found nothing. Can he hide his special secret skill from soul detection? 8-Axe Master's face darkened. No, it's impossible for his secret skill to hide from the cultivator's cultivation detection. The reason why I can't find him is because my soul perception is not strong enough. In that case, 8-Axe Master was stunned. He flipped his hand and took out a purple bead. Chapter 35-35. Suppression? Is that a soul golden pearl? The principal's masters around them all noticed what 8-Axe Master had brought out. It's a soul golden pearl and it's of an extremely high level. Its value is also extremely shocking, and it's equivalent to 1/3 of a low-level universe true treasure. Under normal circumstances, a soul golden pearl of this level would be used to swallow and strengthen one's soul resistance when it's attacked by the soul. Of course, after a cultivator consumes it, his soul power will soar, and his soul sensing ability will also be greatly enhanced, Heavy Master said seriously. 8-Axe Master is really generous. Purple Sound Master sighed. On the battlefield, everyone saw 8-Axe Master take out the purple pearl and swallow it without thinking. After swallowing it, his soul power and soul perception ability increased greatly. In a short time, his soul perception ability would not be weaker than an ordinary expert of the 6 void realms. With the help of the soul gold pearl, 8-Axe Master immediately found Jian Wushuang. I found him, he's there. 8-Axe Master's eyes were cold, but he appeared in an empty void. This void was also in the battlefield. It seemed empty, but 8-Axe Master knew that Jian Wushuang was hiding here. Die! 8-Axe Master shouted and swung his giant axe at lightning speed. The void was almost split open, and Jian Wushuang's figure appeared in the void and retreated rapidly. You found my position by consuming treasures. 8-Axe Master, you're quite skilled. Jian Wushuang smiled. Boy, hand over the Poluo God component and I'll let you go. Otherwise, 8-Axe Master stared at Jian Wushuang with a cold gaze. Otherwise what? Jian Wushuang smiled indifferently. 8-Axe Master, you think too highly of yourself. I just didn't want to go through so much trouble, so I used my escape art to leave. Do you really think I won't dare to fight you face to face? Huh. 8-Axe Master frowned and stared at Jian Wushuang. 8-Axe Master, since you've found me, I'll play with you. Jian Wushuang had already pulled out the Blood Mountain sword behind him and looked at 8-Axe Master with interest. Very good. 8-Axe Master's voice was cold, and his body suddenly rushed out. This time, Jian Wushuang did not have the slightest intention of retreating. He also went up to meet him. Just as he was about to fight with the 8-axe master, Jian Wushuang activated his life divine power. Of course, he only activated his life divine power. As for the heaven-cleaving skill, he was not in a hurry to use it. However, even though he only activated his life divine power, the power that Jian Wushuang unleashed was not weaker than that of the Void 5 Realm Principles Master. In addition, the first stage of the Blood Crystal Armor magnified his advantage in basic divine power. In terms of power, he was not much weaker than 8-axe master. 8-axe master, take this. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly, but the Blood Mountain sword in his hand slashed out rapidly. A huge blood-red sword light with a violent aura suddenly swept out. It was the Peerless Sword Manual, Shixiang. Get lost. 8-axe master growled in a low voice, and the huge axe in his hand swept out in a mighty and straight manner. He did not hold back in this axe attack, and he did his best. In his eyes, he was an expert at the peak of the 5th level of the Void, yet he was facing this Principles Master who had no reputation before and whose aura was extremely ordinary. He could definitely crush him. However, the moment the axe shadow he swung out truly collided with the blood-colored sword light, the 8-axe master was stunned. The blood-red sword light contained an extremely violent power. When it collided with the axe shadow, it was shattered, and even the giant axe in his hand was slightly changed. He staggered backward. This is a level 6 absolute art? 8-axe master was still a little stunned. However, Jian Wushuang had already rushed out like a ghost in front of him. Another sword attack. This sword attack emitted a terrifying tearing force and directly tore apart the void. It was the Peerless Sword technique, Star Dream. 8-axe master subconsciously raised his hand to block the sword attack, but the tearing force contained in the sword technique made him stagger again. How can this strength be so strong? 8-axe master was extremely surprised. However, Jian Wushuang began to perform his swordsmanship. One after another, sword lights were displayed from Jian Wushuang's hands. Some of these swordsmanship were swift and violent, some were strange and enchanting, and some were terrifying and oppressive. Most importantly, each of these swordsmanship was extremely powerful. Every sword attack forced 8-axe master to defend with all his strength, but it was only a passive defense. He could not find a chance to fight back. He's too strong. His strength is no weaker than mine, and his swordsmanship is too terrifying. The 8-axe master was a little terrified of Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship. Because Jian Wushuang had fought with him many times, he had displayed many swordsmanship, and each of these swordsmanship was a 6th-level absolute art. It should be known that a 6th-level absolute art was compatible with an expert in the 6 realms of the void. Although the 5 realms of the void could create 6th-level absolute arts, like him, it was very difficult to create a 6th-level absolute art. However, Jian Wushuang had not only created a 6th-level absolute art, but he had also created more than just one sword move. Many of his sword moves had reached the 6th-level absolute art level. What he did not know was that although Jian Wushuang was not a true Principles Master, in terms of real strength, he was definitely not weaker than a Principles Master of the 6th realm of the void. Most importantly, his talent in sword principle was extremely high. Along the way, he received many incredible opportunities. For example, 600 years ago, the Heaven Ancestor, a ruler-level expert, gave him a demonstration of the axe skill. The axe skill had greatly affected him. He often came into contact with experts of the 6 void realms and even fought with them. Naturally, his swordsmanship had improved greatly. Up until now, his 7 sword moves of the Wushuang Sword Manual had all reached the level of a 6th-rank absolute art. All have been elevated to the level of level 6. Under the premise that their powers were about the same, Jian Wushuang had the absolute advantage in the competition of strength and ultimate skills. Don't get cocky, kid. After being suppressed by Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship for a long time, 8-axe master was finally enraged. A golden lightning suddenly flashed from his body, and a terrifying aura burst out from his body. His eyes turned scarlet. Are you going to use your killer move? Jian Wushuang smiled slightly. It's good that I'm tired of playing. It's time to end it. Chapter 35-36. Thunderpool Jian Wushuang's expression turned cold, and a shocking destructive will suddenly rose up. I won't stop until I die. The sword was instantly slashed out. The moment the sword was slashed out, the shocking destructive will also immediately rose to the extreme. The destructive will, filled with hatred and endless destruction, directly covered 8-Axe Master. 8-Axe Master had also displayed his strongest skill. The giant axe in his hand seemed to cover the void and oppress the whole area. However, the mighty shadow of the axe, after it collided with Jian Wushuang's sword light, which was determined to die. Clang. With a crisp sound, 8-Axe Master's body slightly sank. The light in the axe shadow immediately dimmed, and his move was instantly disintegrated. However, this was only the beginning. After destroying his axe shadow, the astonishing sword skill with a terrifying destructive will came crushing toward his divine body again. A majestic power directly hit 8-Axe Master's divine body. So, the 8-Axe Master was unable to control his godly body after being struck by this power. His entire body suddenly fell downwards like a cannonball. One had to know that this place was in the Black Thunder Pool. The ground of the Black Thunder Pool was covered with black divine lightning. The power of those black divine lightning was extremely tyrannical. Ordinary principles masters would not dare to step into it. However, because of the impact of the power, 8-Axe Master's entire body was smashed into the thunder pool below. The thunder pool instantly surged with a large amount of black divine lightning, crazily covering 8-Axe Master like a wave. This scene caused the surrounding principles masters to be shocked. 8-Axe Master was actually struck into the thunder pool? Is 8-Axe Master dead? This man defeated 8-Axe Master and hacked 8-Axe Master into the thunder pool? The principles masters widened their eyes and looked at the thunder pool below, exclaiming in disbelief. However, Jian Wushuang ignored them. After hacking 8-Axe Master into the thunder pool below, he withdrew his Blood Mountain sword and performed shadowless escape art. 8-Axe Master was still in the thunder pool. As soon as Jian Wushuang performed shadowless escape art, the surrounding people did not know where he was. Naturally, they could not obstruct him. He directly passed through the battlefield. He walked out of the Black Thunder Pool. At the same time, he sent a message to Heavy Master to ask them to leave. Heavy Master, Saber Python Master, and Purple Sound Master immediately retreated. The few principles masters did not stop them. In the blink of an eye, Jian Wushuang and the others had disappeared from everyone's sight. After Jian Wushuang and the others left, the thunder pool below suddenly rumbled. Then 8-Axe Master, who was emitting a terrifying murderous aura, struggled out of the thunder pool. The black divine thunder in the Black Thunder Pool was powerful and posed a great threat to ordinary principles masters. However, 8-Axe Master was an expert at the peak of the Fifth Void Realm, and he was wearing armor at the level of an elementary universe supreme treasure. He could barely resist the erosion of the divine thunder. He had been trapped in the thunder pool for only a moment, so his life was not in any danger. However, he had consumed a lot of divine power. After he got out of the thunder pool, he immediately looked around with his ruthless eyes, but he did not see Jian Wushuang again. Where are they? 8-Axe Master shouted in a low voice. 8-Axe Master, the people from Star Palace, including the one who fought with you, have left, an expert of the Fifth Void Realm said. Left? 8-Axe Master's face darkened slightly, but he could only shake his head helplessly. Jian Wushuang had already obtained the Poluo God component, and then he fought with him and defeated him. At this point, Jian Wushuang would naturally choose to leave. Moreover, even if Jian Wushuang had not left, what could he do? To snatch the Poluo God component from Jian Wushuang again? Was that possible? Jian Wushuang had already proven his strength in the battle just now. Even if he did not use the shadowless escape art to fight him head-on, he would definitely crush him. If the Poluo God component fell into the hands of such an expert, he, 8-Axe Master, was completely helpless. Do you know the name of the person just now? 8-Axe Master asked. I don't know. That person is very unfamiliar. He must have just entered the universe battlefield not long ago, so we don't know him. However, he is with Saber Python Master and Heavy Master. He is most likely from Star Palace, the expert of the 5 Void Realms said. Oh right, I heard Heavy Master call him Bloodsword Master just now. A Void 4th level Principles Master beside him said. Bloodsword Master? 8-Axe Master's eyes narrowed slightly before he nodded. Bloodsword Master should be his title. Furthermore, his sword techniques are strange and terrifying. When he executed his sword techniques, he left behind streaks of blood-colored sword light in the void. He indeed deserves this title. 8-Axe Master, you have just fought head-on with Bloodsword Master. What do you think of his strength? Asked the Principles Master of the 5th level of the Void Realm. There were dozens of astral worlds around the 3 universe battlefields, and there were countless forces of all sizes. There were countless great beings, and these great beings were all adventuring in the 3 battlefields. Naturally, they had to know themselves and their enemies well. For example, if an extremely powerful expert appeared in the 3 battlefields, it would not take long for everyone to know his name and information. It was because of this information, the various forces did not deliberately hide it, and most of them were willing to share it. Their encounter with Jian Wushuang this time also showed that Jian Wushuang's strength was extraordinary. However, only the 8-Axe Master, who had really fought with Jian Wushuang, knew what level Jian Wushuang's strength was at. Therefore, the surrounding Principles Masters all wanted to know Jian Wushuang's specific battle strength level from the 8-Axe Master. They all wanted to know the level of Jian Wushuang's battle strength from the 8-Axe Master so that they could be prepared when they fought with Jian Wushuang in the future. After a moment of silence, the 8-Axe Master spoke directly. Bloodsword Master's aura alone is not very strong among Principles Masters, but his battle strength is extremely terrifying. The power he possesses is not much weaker than mine and has reached the peak of the 5th Void Realm. However, this is not the most important thing. The most important thing is his unique skill, his sword skill. His swordsmanship is too terrifying. When he fought with me, I saw that among the swordsmanship that he displayed, there were at least 5 sword techniques that had reached the level of a 6th tier ultimate art. Especially that last sword technique that he displayed. If I'm not mistaken, that should already be a peak 6th tier ultimate art. Chapter 35-37. An absolute art at the peak of level 6? The surrounding Principles Masters were all shocked. If Jian Wushuang's creation of several initial level 6 absolute arts was only a surprise to them, then the creation of an absolute art at the peak of level 6 was enough to completely shock them. This was because under normal circumstances, a peak stage 6 absolute art could not be created without the battle strength of the 6th realm of the void. The power that Jian Wushuang displayed just now was only at the peak stage of the 5th realm of the void, but with this absolute art, he was probably not much weaker than an ordinary expert of the 6th realm of the void. This Bloodsword Master swordsmanship is really terrifying, and his other methods are also very brilliant. For example, the time and space domain that he displayed just now, as well as his strange escape skill, are even more amazing. With all these methods combined, his threat to ordinary Principles Masters is probably no less than that of an ordinary expert of the 6th realm of the void, 8-Axe Master continued. However, the strange thing is that Bloodsword Master's offensive magic weapon doesn't seem to be very high level. It's not even a universe true treasure. If he can get an offensive magic weapon at the level of a universe true treasure, his combat power might be able to improve even further. Hearing 8-Axe Master's words, the Principles Masters all secretly drew in a breath of cold air. In their eyes, Jian Wushuang was already terrifying enough. Would he not be even more terrifying if he took another step forward? 8-Axe Master, thank you for informing us. The Void 5 Realm Principles Master cupped his hands and then turned to leave with the people around him. The other Principles Masters knew that there was nothing to fight for, so they naturally left one after another. In the end, only 8-Axe Master was still standing there. Bloodsword Master, 8-Axe Master's face was solemn, but his mind was full of thoughts. I don't know why, but I always feel that he didn't use his full strength when he fought with me. Even when he used his ultimate skill at the peak of stage 6, I still feel that he didn't use his full strength. What's going on? 8-Axe Master was a little confused. In fact, his intuition was right. Although Jian Wushuang had shown many skills in the fight, his real battle strength had not been fully unleashed. He had never used the heaven-cleaving skill alone. Once he used the heaven-cleaving skill, it was equivalent to an additional portion of his willpower. His strength could crush 8-Axe Master in an instant. However, Jian Wushuang did not do that. Instead, he deliberately reserved his strength. The reason why he fought head-on with the 8-Axe Master was that Jian Wushuang wanted to use the 8-Axe Master to train his swordsmanship as much as possible. After all, he had already taught an absolute art at the peak of level 6. Although he had gained enlightenment from the Heaven Ancestor's axe and mastered the destructive will, he had created this absolute art. It meant that he had reached a new level in swordsmanship. After reaching this level, he could also improve the 7 sword moves in the Peerless Sword Manual. Although these sword moves could not reach the peak of the 6th level like the fight to the death, they could still be improved to the advanced level of the 6th level. Since he wanted to improve, he naturally needed to spend time in practice. The 8-Axe Master was not weak, so his battle with him was undoubtedly a form of training for Jian Wushuang. Unfortunately, the 8-Axe Master definitely did not know about this. In the void outside the Black Thunder Pool, Jian Wushuang, the Heavy Master, the Saber Python Master, and the Purple Sound Master gathered together again. However, at this moment, the Heavy Master, the Saber Python Master, and the Purple Sound Master looked at Jian Wushuang with a hint of shock. After all, they had seen with their own eyes that Jian Wushuang had snatched the Poluo God component from 8-Axe Master. Moreover, Jian Wushuang had fought with 8-Axe Master head-on, and most importantly, he had crushed 8-Axe Master. 8-Axe Master was an expert at the peak of the 5th Void Realm. Moreover, he was very famous. How strong was Jian Wushuang to be able to crush such an expert head-on? Heavy, didn't you say that Blood Sword Master had just become a Principal's Master not long ago? Where did you get the news? Purple Sound Master looked at Heavy Master with some resentment. Just broke through? Are you kidding me? Blood Sword Master's strength is not much weaker than an expert at the 6th Void Realm. How could he have just broken through? Saber Python Master said directly. Heavy Master was at a loss for words. 600 years ago, he had indeed seen that Jian Wushuang was only at the Immortal Saint realm, but the battle strength that Jian Wushuang displayed today, it was definitely not something that a person who had just broken through to become a Principal's Master could possess. Is it really as Marquis you said, that when Heavenly Sword Marquis was at the Immortal Saint realm, his strength was no less than mine? Heavy Master muttered in his heart. Jian Wushuang, who was standing next to the 3 of them, saw this scene and smiled. There's no point in talking about these things. All I need to do is get my hands on the Poluo God component. Yes. The Heavy Master nodded, but he was sure that he was looking at Jian Wushuang in a completely different way now. In this world, no matter where they went, the experts would always be respected. These cultivators also respected the experts in their hearts. Previously, although the Heavy Master no longer looked down on Jian Wushuang, and his relationship with Jian Wushuang had eased, it was mainly because of Jian Wushuang's life-saving means and because Jian Wushuang had saved him. Moreover, he was able to escape from the hands of God Fei safely. It could be said that the Heavy Master had only been grateful to Jian Wushuang before, but he did not have any respect for him. However, it was different now. The Heavy Master was completely in awe of Jian Wushuang now because he knew that Jian Wushuang was much stronger than him. It was not only him, but also Saber Python Master and Purple Sound Master. Blood Sword Master, congratulations. That Poluo God component is a good thing. Saber Python Master sighed softly. It is indeed a good item. However, the Poluo God component was obtained by the 4 of us together. Although I put in a little more effort, I can't monopolize it. So, let's discuss how to distribute it, Jian Wushuang said. Upon hearing Jian Wushuang's words, Saber Python Master, Heavy Master, and Purple Sound Master were delighted. Of course, they were full of desire for the Poluo God parts. However, because of Jian Wushuang's strength, and because of his overwhelming strength, they had obtained the Poluo God parts in this competition. Therefore, if Jian Wushuang did not mention the distribution, they would definitely not mention it. But now that Jian Wushuang had taken the initiative to ask for it, they naturally wanted to share it. After all, they had contributed. Chapter 35-38. Distribution. Blood Swordmaster. Our Star Palace actually has some rules about the distribution of treasures, Heavy Master said. Oh, tell me about it. Jian Wushuang looked at him. First of all, the first expert who finds a true treasure and sends the news must take a share. Under normal circumstances, the first one to find a true treasure can take 10 to 20% of the share. Secondly, during the treasure competition, the rest of the share will be distributed according to each person's contribution, Heavy Master said. And this time, Saber Python Master was the first to see the Poluo God parts, and he passed the news to us. Only then could we rush over in time to fight for them. Saber Python Master would definitely get a share. In addition, during the fight, Saber Python Master had more or less put in some effort, so it shouldn't be too much to get a 20% share. As for Purple Sound Master and I, we only gave those cultivators some hindrance during the fight. The others basically didn't do anything. In the end, it was almost all thanks to you, Blood Sword Master, that we were able to get the Poluo God parts. Therefore, it's already pretty good that Purple Sound Master and I can get a 10% share together. The remaining 70% will all go to you, Blood Sword Master. Blood Sword Master, Saber Python Master, what do you think of the distribution? Heavy Master knew his own limits. He and Purple Sound Master did not put in much effort in this competition. They would be satisfied if they could get 10% of the shares. I don't have any objections. After all, I didn't put in much effort in the competition. I only found the Poluo God component and passed the news to you. It's already a lot to get 20% of the shares. Blood Sword Master, what do you think? Saber Python Master looked at Jian Wushuang. In fact, the distribution was just their wishful thinking. They mainly had to see if Jian Wushuang would accept the distribution. If Jian Wushuang did not accept it, of course, they would make some concessions. However, Jian Wushuang gave a forthright smile and said, "As long as the three of you are satisfied, of course I won't have any objections." Well, it's settled then. Saber Python Master smiled. Blood Sword Master, you can send a message to Axe 1 Master. He controls the true treasure vault of our Star Palace. The experts of our Star Palace need his permission to exchange for treasures in the true treasure vault. At the same time, if we get any treasures, we can go to the true treasure vault and exchange them for contribution points. The Poluo God parts are useless to us. In the end, we must exchange them for contribution points. Ask him how many contribution points he will exchange for the Poluo God parts, and then we will distribute them according to our respective shares, Heavy Master said. Okay, I'll ask him now. Jian Wushuang did not hesitate and immediately sent a message to Axe 1 Master. My young friend, you said you got the Poluo God parts? Axe 1 Master could not help being surprised when he received Jian Wushuang's message. After all, the Poluo God component was quite famous in the universe battlefield, and its value was extremely precious. Jian Wushuang had obtained a Poluo God component not long after he set off for Devil's Smoke Valley. It was truly a rare stroke of luck. Axe 1 Master, this Poluo God component was obtained by me, Saber Python Master, and Heavy Master together. Now, I want to ask how many contribution points this Poluo God component can be exchanged for in the true treasure vault, so that we can share it, Jian Wushuang said. Well, Axe 1 Master pondered for a moment, then he said, although there have been a lot of Poluo God parts in the universe, not many of them have been spread in the universe battlefield. There are also people who are eager to get a Poluo God part. As far as I know, 2 of them have obtained 2 Poluo God parts and are eager to get a third one. Their prices are also very high, so the Poluo God part is naturally very valuable. If you want to exchange it for contribution points, you can get 350 contribution points. 350 contribution points? Jian Wushuang nodded slightly and cut off the communication. Blood Sword Master, what do you think? The Heavy Master and the Saber Python Master looked at Jian Wushuang eagerly, especially the Saber Python Master. After all, he could get 20% of the total contribution points. In his opinion, 20% should be a significant amount of contribution points. Ladies and gentlemen, the contribution points given by Axe 1 Master are 350 points, Jian Wushuang said. 350 points? Upon hearing this number, Saber Python Master and Heavy Master were stunned at first, but then they were overjoyed. I knew it. The value of the Poluo God parts is very shocking. It must be higher than the value of an ordinary advanced universe true treasure. Now it seems that it is true. Saber Python Master laughed loudly. 350 contribution points. That's close to the value of an advanced universe true treasure armor. We really made a profit this time, Heavy Master said with a laugh. Jian Wushuang had a strange look on his face. After all, he had never been to the Star Palace True Treasure Vault, so he had no idea about these contribution points. He had thought that 350 contribution points was not a big number. However, judging from the expressions of Saber Python Master and Heavy Master, the contribution points should be quite a lot. Gentlemen, are 350 contribution points a lot? Jian Wushuang asked. Yes, of course. Saber Python Master nodded. Bloodsword Master, let me put it this way. In the Star Palace's True Treasure Vault, ordinary offensive magic weapons at the level of Elementary Universe True Treasures can only be exchanged for 10 contribution points, while offensive magic weapons at the level of Advanced Universe True Treasures can only be exchanged for 100 contribution points. As for the Poluo God parts, they are directly exchanged for 350 contribution points, which is equivalent to the price of 3.5 Advanced Universe True Treasures. That's right. Purple Sound Master and I can only get 10% of the total, but that's still 35 contribution points, which is equivalent to 3.5 low-level Universe True Treasure attack weapons. I exchanged my True Treasure armor for Purple Sound Master, and that True Treasure armor was only worth 42 contribution points. This time, Purple Sound and I came to Devil Smoke Valley to find a way to get more contribution points to exchange for the True Treasure armor, and now, almost all of them have returned. The point is, I didn't take any risks when I got these contribution points, Heavy Master said with a laugh. His face was full of surprise and joy. Purple Sound Master, who was beside him, was also smiling. Chapter 35-39. Adventuring alone this time, Heavy Master and Purple Sound Master had come out to explore together. They had come out to find a way to get enough contribution points, and then they would exchange Heavy Master's True Treasure armor back. But now, the 10% share of this Poluo God component had almost all been returned. As for the Saber Python Master, he was even happier. He had received 20% of the share, which was 70 contribution points, which was a huge fortune for the Saber Python Master. Of course, they could not compare with Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang alone could receive 70% of the share, which was 245 contribution points, which was more than 2 Advanced Universe Supreme Treasures. The Poluo God part is in my hands now, but I don't have any contribution points. I can only give you the contribution points when I return to the Star Palace and go to the Supreme Treasure Vault to exchange for it. But the problem is that I just came out of the Star Palace and don't want to go back immediately, Jian Wushuang suddenly said. That's okay. Purple Sound Master and I just came out of the Star Palace and didn't expect to go back so soon. You can give us the contribution points later when you return to the Star Palace. What about you, Saber Python Master? Heavy Master looked at Saber Python Master. They'll return to Star Palace soon, but am not in a hurry for the contribution points. I can wait in Star Palace for a while, but how long do you plan to stay in Devil Smoke Valley? Saber Python Master asked. I think I'll stay in the outer area of Devil Smoke Valley for now. After a while, I'll go to the core area of Devil Smoke Valley. I'll definitely go back to Star Palace before entering the core area, Jian Wushuang said. Bloodsword Master, are you going to explore the core area of Devil Smoke Valley? Heavy Master looked at Jian Wushuang in surprise, but he immediately understood. That's right. With your strength, you can go there. However, there are many experts in the core area of Devil Smoke Valley, which is much more dangerous than the outer area. You have to be careful. Of course. Jian Wushuang smiled. In that case, I'll go back to Star Palace and wait for 100 or 200 years. When you return to Star Palace, you can send me a message, Bloodsword Master, Saber Python Master said. No problem. Jian Wushuang nodded. Since it's a deal, let's part ways again. Goodbye, both of you, Heavy Master said and then left with Purple Sound Master. Saber Python Master cupped his hands at Jian Wushuang and turned to leave. Jian Wushuang stood in the void and looked around calmly. Devil Smoke Valley, one of the 3 battlefields, not only contains countless opportunities and precious treasures like the Poluo God parts, but also countless experts from the surrounding star worlds. Although the experts in the outer area are not as good as those in the core area, they are enough to practice swordsmanship. My goal in Devil Smoke Valley is to reach a very deep area, the special place that the Shui Bei Master discovered. However, there are too many unknowns and it's too dangerous. Therefore, before venturing into that special place, I must improve my strength to the peak that I can temporarily reach. Naturally, I must improve my swordsmanship first. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. He already had a detailed plan in his heart. He would stay in the outer area of Devil Smoke Valley first, not only to familiarize himself with the illusion in the battlefield, but also to hone his swordsmanship. After he had completely improved his swordsmanship and reached a new level of strength, he would set off for the core area of Devil Smoke Valley until he went to the special land discovered by Shui Bei. Let's begin. Jian Wushuang smiled and immediately flew to the side. Half a day later, 2 figures were flying side by side in the void outside Devil Smoke Valley. Chapter 3540. The name Blood Sword. What was the Blood Sword Master's intentions? The chubby master took out another fruit and ate it while watching Jian Wushuang leave. I don't know. Although he came to us, it seems that he doesn't really want to be our enemy. After fighting with us, he just left. If I'm not mistaken, he just wants to fight with us, Master Yun said. Purely to have a battle with us? Could it be another battle maniac? Chubby Master sighed. The 3 universe battlefields had gathered dozens of experts from the astral worlds around them. There were simply too many of them. And with so many experts, their temperaments were naturally different. Among them, there were some who liked to kill, like God Fei Master. They almost killed anyone they saw, but at the same time, there were also some who liked to challenge others. They would take the initiative to fight with others to improve their strength. These crazy killers only pursued fierce battles, but they did not pursue killing. They were completely different from God Fei Master. In the eyes of Master Yun and the chubby master, Jian Wushuang was the second kind of crazy killer. It's better to meet a crazy killer than a crazy killer. Blood Sword Master is very strong. If he really kills us, we might not be his match, the chubby master said. 2 maybe. Master Yun nodded slightly. The 2 chatted for a while and then continued to move forward. From this day on, Jian Wushuang had indeed become a battle maniac. He roamed the outer area of Devil Smoke Valley, looking for experts everywhere, and then took the initiative to fight with them. The opponents he found were usually experts of the 5th Void Realm with some strength. Of course, he would not miss the chance to meet experts above the peak of the 5th Void Realm. But no matter who he fought with, he was almost evenly matched. He did not have any advantage in a fight. He did not have any advantage in a fight with an ordinary expert of the 5th Void Realm, but he did not have any disadvantage either. However, he was the same when he fought an expert at the peak of the 5th Void Realm. The reason for this was that Jian Wushuang had deliberately reserved his strength from the beginning to the end. When he fought with these experts, he would try his best to control the power of his divine power and then try his best to hone his swordsmanship. He would rely on himself to gain an advantage. For example, when he fought with an ordinary expert of the 5th Void Realm, Jian Wushuang basically did not even activate his life divine power. He would rely on his own will and the power of his basic divine power, which was equivalent to the power of the peak of the 4th Void Realm. Then he would rely on his swordsmanship to fight fiercely with his opponent. No matter who he fought with, he would always control his power to be weaker than his opponent, and then try to maximize his advantage in swordsmanship. In this way, he could better hone his swordsmanship. Of course, his unbridled challenge naturally attracted the attention of all the great beings in the surrounding astral world. The name of Blood Sword Master gradually began to spread in the universe battlefield. Not long after, everyone who was adventuring in the universe battlefield knew of the existence of Blood Swordmaster, and this Blood Swordmaster was a madman who loved to fight. Recently, he had been crazily challenging experts from all over the outer area of Devil's Smoke Valley. As for the strength of Blood Swordmaster, experts from all over the universe were unable to accurately gauge Jian Wushuang's strength. This was because all the experts who fought with him were basically evenly matched. They only knew that his swordsmanship was extremely good. However, Blood Swordmaster had defeated 8-Axe Master in the fight for the Poluo God parts. Therefore, the Star World's definition of Jian Wushuang's strength was that he was a principles master at the peak of the 5 Void Realms. At the same time, he was very close to the level of the 6 Void Realms. As for his challenges in the outer area of Devil's Smoke Valley, anyone could see that he must have used these battles to hone his strength. Star Palace, in the Secret Pavilion. Recently, the Blood Sword Master who has been wandering in the outer area of Devil's Smoke Valley seems to be quite famous. Marquis Duanyu said. It's like this. Moreover, I heard that this Blood Sword Master is from our Star Palace, but when did our Star Palace have a Blood Sword Master? 7 Emotions Master looked puzzled. When Axe 1 Master heard this, he smiled. Blood Sword Master is indeed an expert from our Star Palace. He is the Heavenly Sword Marquis that Marquis Duanyu brought back from the Divine Beginning Realm. It's just that when he roamed Devil's Smoke Valley, he deliberately used the alias Blood Sword. It's him. 7 Emotions Master had a strange expression. If I remember correctly, this Heavenly Marquis Sword should still be an immortal saint. He hasn't broken through to the Principles Master, right? He hasn't broken through. Axe 1 Master nodded. I've told you before that the Heavenly Sword Marquis isn't weak. Even if he ventured into Devil's Smoke Valley alone, you don't have to worry. You didn't believe it, but now you believe it, right? A mere immortal saint actually defeated 8-Axe Master and seized Poluo God's component. Moreover, he made such a name for himself in Devil's Smoke Valley. This is a little too terrifying. 7 Emotions Master couldn't help but exclaim, "Oh right, why did he crazily challenge all the experts in Devil's Smoke Valley during this period of time?" I've asked him about this before. He said that he was honing his sword techniques. Axe 1 Master smiled. Oh right, only a few of us know that Blood Sword Master is the immortal saint. Please don't leak this out. Of course, we're not stupid enough to leak this out. However, if he encounters an extremely powerful ruler-level expert while adventuring in Devil's Smoke Valley, you'll be able to see through his level of strength. When that time comes, he'll definitely leak it out, and it'll definitely cause a sensation. 7 Emotions Master said. We'll talk about it later, but for now, just keep it a secret, Axe 1 Master said. The surrounding people also nodded. As time passed, Jian Wushuang continued to wander around the outer area of Devil's Smoke Valley, challenging experts from all over the place and honing his swordsmanship at the same time. In a flash, 50 years had passed. Outside Devil's Smoke Valley, there was a vast black land. A faint aura of a true treasure surrounded it. In the center of this land, a long spear surrounded by a faint purple godly thunder slowly rose from the ground. This long spear, however, judging from its aura, was clearly a universe true treasure. Even though it was only a low-level universe true treasure, after it was born, there were still many great beings attracted to it. Right now, there were no less than 10 great beings standing around the long spear. Among them, there were 2 great beings at the 5th level of the Void Realm. They were all waiting for the long spear to be born completely, and then they would start fighting for it. Chapter 3541, Master Dragonhawk Hong. Suddenly, an aura fluctuated, and the black spear that everyone was staring at finally rose up from the ground. The moment the spear rose up, the surrounding principles masters instantly moved. One by one, figures rushed down at the fastest speed. Everyone wanted to rush to the front of the spear and put it into their interspatial rings. But right at this moment, a layer of space-time principles energy suddenly spread out. As soon as this layer of space-time principles energy appeared, it instantly covered the entire void. In the blink of an eye, it formed a massive space-time domain, the numerous principal's masters who had rushed toward the spear at the first moment also immediately fell into this space-time domain, their speed drastically decreasing. What's going on? A space-time treasure? What a powerful space-time domain. My speed has been suppressed by so much? These principal's masters were all secretly shocked. After the space-time domain appeared and suppressed the speed of all the principal's masters present, a figure appeared in front of the black long spear. With a simple wave of his hand, he put the black spear into his interspatial ring. After that, he slowly turned around. What a strange escape art. We didn't notice that someone was beside us. This person is Blood Sword Master. It's him. It's rumored that he has a space-time domain and an extremely strange escape art that can hide from the soul detection of cultivators. It seems that it's true. The surrounding principal's masters had already recognized Jian Wushuang. However, after knowing that the long spear had fallen into Jian Wushuang's hands, the principal's masters immediately gave up the idea of fighting for it. In the past 50 years, Jian Wushuang had roamed the outer area of Devil's Smoke Valley and constantly challenged experts from all over the place. This challenge had made him extremely famous. Among the experts he had challenged, there were at least 10 experts at the peak of the Fifth Void Realm. However, after the fierce battle with Jian Wushuang, these experts all admitted that Jian Wushuang had not displayed his strongest strength. During the time he had fought with them, he had not displayed his strongest strength. Even so, Jian Wushuang could still slightly suppress them. This led to the judgment that Jian Wushuang should be able to fight against experts of the 6 Void Realms. Such an expert had a strong life-saving ability. If the long spear fell into his hands, who would be qualified to fight for it with the surrounding principal's masters? Moreover, the long spear was only an elementary universe supreme treasure. It would be unwise to snatch it from Blood Sword Master for such a supreme treasure. Everyone, I'm sorry to have made you wait in vain. Jian Wushuang smiled and looked around at the principal's masters. Blood Sword Master, you're too kind. If we had known you were here, we would have left long ago. Everyone knows that you, Blood Sword Master, have a powerful space-time domain, and your speed and movement techniques are very strange. It's simply asking for trouble to snatch the treasure from you, a purple-haired man said with a smile. Yes, with you here, Blood Sword Master, how can we compete for the treasure? Another man also smiled. Jian Wushuang also smiled. He could see that the principal's masters present were very good to him. After all, in the 50 years he had been wandering in Devil's Smoke Valley, although he had challenged countless experts, Jian Wushuang had never killed any of them, regardless of whether they were strong or weak. In the fierce battle, he had even made friends with many experts. Among them, there were experts from various star worlds and forces. In addition, Jian Wushuang was very strong, which made people respect him. Naturally, the principal's masters treated him better. Blood Sword Master, you've already got the long spear. You don't want us to stay and fight you one by one, do you? The stronger expert of the 5 Void Realms among the principal's masters said. That's not necessary. If you want to leave, you can leave now. But Master Dragonhawk is an exception. Jian Wushuang's eyes locked on one of the principal's masters in the crowd. Me. Master Dragonhawk, who was wearing cyan armor and had eagle-like eyes, looked surprised, but then he smiled and said, Blood Sword Master, are you going to spar with me? Yes, it's you. Jian Wushuang nodded. His eyes looked calm, but there was a hidden killing intent in the depths of his eyes. Master Dragonhawk did not notice this killing intent. The surrounding principal's masters also looked at each other with strange expressions. There were no less than 10 principal's masters present. Master Dragonhawk's cultivation was only at the peak of the 4th realm. Among these principal's masters, he was definitely not the best and was stronger than him. Obviously, there were 2 experts of the 5th realm of the void. Generally, experts who liked to fight would definitely challenge the experts. Why would they challenge the weaker ones? Therefore, they initially thought that Jian Wushuang would only challenge 2 experts of the 5th realm of the void. They did not expect that Jian Wushuang would challenge Master Dragonhawk. Although it was strange, they did not pay much attention to Jian Wushuang as he had never killed anyone in the past 50 years. Master Dragonhawk still greeted them with a smile. It's rare for Bloodsword Master to think highly of me. I, Dragonhawk, will have to risk my life to accompany you. Master Dragonhawk, show me your strongest strength. Jian Wushuang's expression was cold as the Blood Mountain sword appeared in his hand. Be careful. Master Dragonhawk reminded him as a hook-type magic weapon appeared in his hand. His body swayed slightly and appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. The hook also strangely bypassed the special curve. It went straight for Jian Wushuang's throat. The moment Master Dragonhawk made his move, Jian Wushuang's expression turned completely cold as he activated the life divine power in his body. During the past 50 years, when he sparred with others, even if he needed an ordinary expert of the Void 5 realms, he would not easily activate the life divine power in the beginning. Master Dragonhawk was only at the peak of the Void 4 realms, but Jian Wushuang had already used the life divine power in the beginning. Not only that, his power had also reached its peak at this moment. The Blood Mountain sword in his hand, with an unprecedented violent aura, drew a beautiful blood-red mark in the void and suddenly slashed out furiously. Peerless Sword Manual, Shi Xiang. Boom. The sword light swept out with earth-shaking power. In addition to the heaven-splitting skill, Jian Wushuang had already used his strongest power and strength. Chapter 3542. Killing Move. This move. The moment Master Dragonhawk saw Jian Wushuang's move, he could feel the extraordinary power contained in the move. However, he was the first to make a move, and his power had been pushed to the limit. At this time, he could not avoid the fight at all. He could only brace himself and meet Jian Wushuang head-on. As a result, the collision, clang. The hook in Master Dragonhawk's hand was smashed and changed direction. It was almost thrown away, but the brilliant blood-red sword light was not affected at all. It continued to chop at Master Dragonhawk's divine body. Master Dragonhawk also had an elementary universe true treasure armor on his body. It immediately reduced the power by more than half, but the rest of the power was transferred to his body, causing him to be severely injured. Almost 40% of his divine power was instantly destroyed. Buzz. Master Dragonhawk retreated rapidly. On the way, everyone could see that his aura had been greatly weakened. Blood Sword Master. After he stabilized himself, Master Dragonhawk revealed a look of shock and anger. Master Dragonhawk, I forgot to tell you that the battle between us today will determine the victor, as well as life and death, Jian Wushuang said leisurely. Life and death. Master Dragonhawk was stunned. Blood Sword Master is going to kill Master Dragonhawk? The surrounding principal's masters were also astonished. In the 50 years that Jian Wushuang had been wandering in the Ou Thankserts of Devil's Smoke Valley, he had never killed anyone among the experts he had challenged. But today he was going to kill Master Dragonhawk. Run! Master Dragon Eagle did not hesitate. He immediately fled when he saw that Jian Wushuang was going to kill him. He did not dare to stay any longer. Jian Wushuang's sword attack had scared him. The power of that sword attack was so strong that it was no less than that of an ordinary expert of the 6 realms of the void. He had the armor of an elementary universe supreme treasure, but almost 40% of his divine power had been destroyed in an instant. If he were to receive a few more strikes, he would definitely die. Do you think you can escape? Jian Wushuang smiled coldly. His space-time domain instantly covered Master Dragonhawk, and he disappeared into the void at once. The space-time domain suppressed Master Dragonhawk, causing his speed to drop drastically. Jian Wushuang, on the other hand, used his shadowless escape art, and his speed was extremely fast. He easily caught up with Master Dragonhawk. Master Dragonhawk, die! Jian Wushuang shouted and slashed his Blood Mountain sword at Master Dragonhawk. Why, Blood Sword Master, why do you want to kill me? Master Dragonhawk roared crazily. He did not understand why Jian Wushuang wanted to kill him when he had never killed anyone before. He had never had any contact with Blood Sword Master before? Was it because of Star Palace? However, there was a certain conflict between his camp and the highest level of Star Palace. Most of the experts under Star Palace came from the surrounding star worlds, so they did not get involved in the conflict between Star Palace and the highest level of his camp, most of them did not get involved. In that case, what was the reason? Master Dragonhawk, do you want to know why I want to kill you? Jian Wushuang looked down at Master Dragonhawk with a cold gaze. At this moment, Master Dragonhawk's aura was extremely weak, and he had less than 10% of his divine power left. There was no chance for him to survive in Jian Wushuang's hands. When he heard Jian Wushuang's words, he immediately raised his head. He was eager for Jian Wushuang to give him an answer. However, Jian Wushuang smiled coldly and said, "You want to know the answer? Unfortunately, I won't tell you." As soon as he finished speaking, Jian Wushuang attacked again. He cut off the head of Master Dragonhawk and killed him. After the death of Master Dragonhawk, his supreme treasure armor, his long hook, and his interspatial ring naturally fell into Jian Wushuang's hands. After killing Master Dragonhawk easily, Jian Wushuang looked at the surrounding Principal's Masters. The Principal's Masters were not as relaxed as before when they saw Jian Wushuang's eyes. On the contrary, they were all vigilant. They did not know whether Jian Wushuang was purely looking for trouble with Master Dragonhawk or whether he would continue to target them after killing him. Jian Wushuang naturally saw through their thoughts and smiled. "Don't worry, the person I'm looking for is only Master Dragonhawk. I want to kill him because of the sacred island behind him. I'll kill anyone who comes from the sacred island. As for experts from other astral worlds or forces, I don't have any enmity with them." Hearing Jian Wushuang's words, the surrounding Principal's Masters heaved a sigh of relief. "Farewell, everyone." Jian Wushuang turned around and left. Seeing Jian Wushuang leave, the Principal's Masters were relieved. "Fortunately, Blood Sword Master is friendly to us," a Principal's Master said. "Blood Sword Master has always been friendly to us. As for Master Dragonhawk, it seems that Blood Sword Master killed him because of the sacred island behind him. I just don't know what grudge Blood Sword Master has with the sacred island. The sacred island is just an insignificant small force in this universe territory. This force itself seems to be the overlord of the absolute beginning star world, the three great sacred territories. However, the absolute beginning star world has something special compared to the other star worlds. Although the three great sacred territories are the overlords of the absolute beginning star world, they don't have a ruler-level expert guarding them. Because there is no ruler-level expert guarding them, the sacred island doesn't have much presence in this territory. In addition, I heard that there are some grudges between the highest level of the Star Palace and the sacred island. It's very likely that Blood Sword Master killed the people of the sacred island because of this. The Principal's Masters all started to discuss. Whether it was the Star Palace or the sacred island, they were both one of the powers in this universe. Even though the sacred island was weaker and had a lower sense of existence, these experts from the various astral worlds still knew about it. They also knew that there were some grudges between Sacred Island and the highest level of Star Palace, so they had all made guesses. No matter what grudges there are between Star Palace and Sacred Island, or between Blood Sword Master and Sacred Island, it has nothing to do with us. We can only not take the initiative to provoke this Blood Sword Master. That's true. However, Blood Sword Master's power is indeed tyrannical. That Master Dragonhawk is, after all, a great being at the pinnacle of the fourth level of the Void Realm, and he has a universe true treasure armor to protect his body. Yet he was easily killed by Blood Sword Master, and he didn't even have the slightest chance of escaping. Thanks, that's true. These Principal's Masters left one after another amidst the admiration. Chapter 3543, Absolute Shadow. Master Dragonhawk is indeed an expert at the peak of the fourth Void Realm. He is quite wealthy. Jian Wushuang was flying alone in the void outside Devil Smoke Valley with a faint smile on his face. After killing Master Dragonhawk, he had already checked his interspatial ring. Apart from Master Dragonhawk's elementary universe true treasure armor and the hook, which was also at the elementary universe true treasure level, Master Dragonhawk's interspatial ring also had an offensive universe true treasure. In other words, Master Dragonhawk had 3 universe true treasures. Although they were only at the elementary level, they were indeed very valuable. If I exchange these 3 universe true treasures in the Star Palace's true treasure vault, the 2 elementary offensive true treasures can be exchanged for 20 contribution points, and the true treasure armor can be exchanged for 40 contribution points. In total, it's 60 contribution points, Jian Wushuang said with a faint smile. Now I finally understand why God Fei Master loves killing so much. God Fei Master was a crazy person who killed everyone in Devil Smoke Valley. He seemed crazy, but in fact he benefited a lot from such wanton killing. After all, the experts who dared to venture into the universe battlefield were not weak, and most of them had 1 or 2 universe true treasures. At the very least, they had to have 1 universe true treasure for attacking. Every time God Fei Master killed someone, he would get all of their wealth. After killing one great being after another, God Fei Master would naturally accumulate a lot of true treasures, and his wealth would become richer. Of course, there were disadvantages to doing so. Firstly, he would become the public enemy of all the forces, and many great beings would try to kill him. Second, he would kill and collect true treasures like this. Because he had killed too many, when he got too many true treasures, he might be targeted by some top-tier great beings, and he might even attract a ruler-level great being. Although a ruler-level great being rarely lowered his status to deal with a principal's master, if this principal's master had too many true treasures and too much wealth, even a ruler would be envious. I got 3 elementary universe true treasures from Master Dragonhawk, and in the past 50 years, I've encountered a few true treasures. I also got 2 attack-type elementary universe true treasures from them, and I also got the Poluo God parts from the beginning. If I exchange them all for contribution points in the true treasure vault, it should be quite a large amount. It should be enough for me to exchange for some things, Jian Wushuang muttered. Over the past 50 years, Jian Wushuang had challenged experts from all over the world. His swordsmanship had improved a lot over the years. Up until now, most of his swordsmanship had improved. Reaching the level of a 6th level advanced absolute art was already his goal. Now, he did not need to continue the wanton challenge. Instead, he was ready to explore the core area of Devil Smoke Valley. He'll go back to the Star Palace and exchange for contribution points. Then he'll exchange for some suitable true treasures, and then he'll explore the core area. Jian Wushuang made up his mind and immediately headed to the Star Palace. Of course, when he decided to return to the Star Palace, he sent a message to Saber Python Master and Heavy Master. In the Star Palace, Jian Wushuang first went to the True Treasure Vault and exchanged all the treasures he had acquired over the years for contribution points. Among them, the Poluo God parts were exchanged for 350 contribution points, the True Treasure Armor of Master Dragonhawk was exchanged for 40 contribution points, and the other 4 offensive universe true treasures were also exchanged for 40 contribution points, a total of 430 contribution points. However, Jian Wushuang had to return the contribution points of the Blood Crystal Armor first. As the Blood Crystal Armor was the best among the elementary universe true treasure armors, the exchange price was 55 contribution points. After subtracting it, Jian Wushuang actually only got 375 contribution points. Then, Jian Wushuang went to see Heavy Master and Saber Python Master. Heavy Master, Saber Python Master, these are your contribution points. Jian Wushuang gave them the share that belonged to Heavy Master and Saber Python Master. Blood Sword Master, I heard that you've made a name for yourself in the outer area of Devil Smoke Valley over the years? Saber Python Master looked at Jian Wushuang. More than that. Not long ago, I heard that Master Dragonhawk of Sacred Island was killed by Blood Sword Master on the spot, Heavy Master said. Is that so? Saber Python Master's eyes lit up. Gentlemen, I still have something to do, so I'll take my leave first. Jian Wushuang laughed and left. Then he returned to the True Treasure Trove. Although many experts in Star Palace had accumulated true treasures over a long period of time, in fact, there were not many true treasures in Star Palace's True Treasure Trove during this period. This was very normal. Although the 3 battlefields were full of opportunities and many true treasures, there were too many experts who were adventuring in the 3 battlefields. Compared to all the experts who were adventuring in the 3 battlefields, the Star Palace could be said to be insignificant, so naturally, they would not get too many true treasures. Moreover, many true treasures had long been exchanged by the Star Palace experts with contribution points. After giving the contribution points to Saber Python Master and Heavy Master, Jian Wushuang still had 270 contribution points left, which was a relatively large number. With these contribution points, Jian Wushuang was quite confident. Then he began to check the list of true treasures. There were only more than 100 true treasures on the list. In just a moment, Jian Wushuang had finished reading them all. After reading them, Jian Wushuang began to hesitate. He saw 2 true treasures on the list. The first one was a flying-type elementary universe true treasure. It was a pair of wings, just like the flying-type true treasure of God Fei Master. Although it was only at the elementary universe true treasure level, it cost 110 contribution points to exchange for it. Its value was no less than that of an ordinary advanced universe true treasure. The other true treasure was the offensive magic weapon of an advanced universe true treasure, the Absolute Shadow Sword. The Absolute Shadow Sword was extremely powerful. It was a top-tier offensive true treasure in the advanced universe, so its value was more than twice that of an ordinary offensive true treasure in the advanced universe. It cost 250 contribution points to exchange for it. However, Jian Wushuang only had 270 contribution points, so it was impossible for him to exchange for both of them. That was why he hesitated. Should he exchange for a flying-type true treasure and an ordinary attack treasure in the advanced universe? Or should he use almost all of his contribution points to exchange for the Absolute Shadow Sword? After hesitating for a while, Jian Wushuang finally made a decision. A flying-type universe true treasure can greatly increase my speed and make my ability to chase and kill stronger than my ability to escape. But in fact, my life-saving ability is extremely good. This flying-type universe true treasure won't help me much. It's more worth it to exchange for the Absolute Shadow Sword. Chapter 3544 appeared 3 times as Jian Wushuang had said. The flight-type true treasure had improved his life-saving ability and pursuit ability, but the improvement was limited. The key point was that his life-saving ability was very strong. Even if the ruler personally attacked him, he might not be able to kill him. As for his pursuit ability, in the Great Universe battlefield, he had a grudge with the Sacred Island. However, the Sacred Island was a small force without a ruler-level expert. There were not many experts in the universe battlefield. It was rare to meet them on a normal day. Naturally, he did not need to deliberately pursue anyone. Compared to the flight-type true treasure, the Absolute Shadow Sword was obviously more useful to him. With his current strength, after activating the Life Divine Power and the first level of the Blood Crystal Armor, his battle strength was at the peak of the 5 Void Realms. Combined with the swordsmanship he created, if he could have another powerful attack supreme treasure, he would be able to compete with ordinary experts of the 6 Void Realms. The Absolute Shadow Sword had such a great improvement for Jian Wushuang. With my strength, if I can use the Absolute Shadow Sword, the power of my swordsmanship will not be weaker than that of an ordinary expert of the 6 Void Realms. Once I use the Heaven-Cleaving skill, I can easily crush an ordinary expert of the 6 Void Realms. Jian Wushuang muttered. He immediately exchanged for the Absolute Shadow Sword with 250 contribution points. After the exchange, Axe 1 Master personally handed the sword to him. Is this the Shadow Sword? Jian Wushuang looked at the purple sword in front of him, which was emitting a faint cold light. The purple sword was about the same length as the Blood Mountain sword, but its body was thinner and its blade sharper. It floated in the air and emitted a suffocating, cold aura, which made people fear it. The name of the sword was Absolute Shadow, so it was a divine sword that focused more on killing and cutting. My young friend, please recognize me as your master, Axe 1 Master said. Jian Wushuang nodded and immediately dropped a drop of his blood essence into the Absolute Shadow Sword. Soon, the sword recognized him as its master and refined it. After that, Jian Wushuang finally grasped the divine sword. This sword is so cold. Jian Wushuang held the sword tightly in his right hand, but he could feel the extreme coldness from it. It was so cold that it was suffocating. Unfortunately, I'm in the Star Palace now, so I can't find a suitable opponent to test the power of this sword. I can only find a suitable opponent to test it when I go to the core area of Devil's Smoke Valley later. Jian Wushuang smiled. He had obtained the Absolute Shadow Sword. As for the Blood Mountain sword that Jian Wushuang had used before, it was refined by his master Xian. Jian Wushuang had used it from his previous life until this one, so they had a deep relationship. Even now that he had the more powerful Absolute Shadow Sword, Jian Wushuang did not intend to give it up. Instead, he carried it on his back as usual. Unless I am facing an expert who is much stronger than me, I will use the Blood Mountain sword to fight against him. I will use the Absolute Shadow Sword to defeat him after I have a clear understanding of its strength, Jian Wushuang muttered. After exchanging 250 contribution points for the Absolute Shadow Sword, although Jian Wushuang still had 20 contribution points left, he could not use them to exchange for anything useful. Axe 1 Master. Jian Wushuang suddenly looked at Axe 1 Master and asked, "Can you ask about something for me?" "What is it?" Axe 1 Master asked. "Ice Heart Glazed Jade. Have you heard of it, Axe 1 Master?" Jian Wushuang asked. "Ice Heart Glazed Jade?" Axe 1 Master's expression changed and he nodded deeply. "Of course I've heard of it, but it's a very rare treasure." "My dear Heaven Marquis, do you need this Ice Heart Glazed Jade?" "Yes." Jian Wushuang nodded. "My wife's soul is now attached to the star moon agarwood that has existed for hundreds of millions of years. Only when we find the Ice Heart Glazed Jade can we reconstruct her body." "Is that so?" Axe 1 Master understood, but he immediately frowned. Although there are a lot of opportunities in the 3 universe battlefields and some special treasures appear from time to time, treasures at the level of the Ice Heart Glazed Jade are very rare. In the long time since the Star Palace was founded, this Ice Heart Glazed Jade has only appeared 3 times. 3 times? Jian Wushuang's eyes lit up. Yes, and they were all born in the depths of the 3 battlefields. Although they were born 3 times, the environment of the first birth of the Ice Heart Glazed Jade was too harsh. Not long after it was born, the surrounding experts fell into a terrible inferno and were burned on the spot before they could fight for it, Axe 1 Master said. "Incinerate? A treasure like the Ice Heart Glazed Jade can be incinerated?" Jian Wushuang was surprised. Nothing is impossible. After all, there are a lot of divine flames of destruction in the depths of Devil's Smoke Valley. The lower-level divine flames of destruction are fine, but the higher-level divine flames of destruction can even burn a ruler-level expert to death. Although the Ice Heart Glazed Jade is a rare treasure, it can still be incinerated at the level of the divine flames of destruction, Axe 1 Master said. "What about the other 2 times?" Jian Wushuang asked. The second appearance of the Ice Heart Glazed Jade was much better. In the end, it was also obtained by an expert of the 6 Void Realms. However, after he obtained the Ice Heart Glazed Jade, he sold it to a ruler-level expert for a very high price, Axe 1 Master said. "Ruler? That ruler also needs the Ice Heart Glazed Jade?" Jian Wushuang was puzzled. "Yes, that ruler-level expert is like you. His wife only has a soul, and your soul is too weak to be possessed. Therefore, the ruler managed to get the Ice Heart Glazed Jade from the 6 Void Realm expert. Then he used the Ice Heart Glazed Jade to create a glazed body and a divine body for his wife. After that, he and his wife disappeared. I guess they went to the depths of the universe," said Axe 1 Master. "What about the last time?" Jian Wushuang clenched his fists and stared at Axe 1 Master. One of the 2 pieces of Ice Heart Glazed Jade had been burned and the other had been used. Jian Wushuang only hoped for the last piece of Ice Heart Glazed Jade. The last piece of Ice Heart Glazed Jade should still be preserved because I've never heard of anyone who yearned for it. However, the person who got it was not a nobody, Axe 1 Master said. Chapter 3545. Asking for information? Who is it? Jian Wushuang asked. "Earth Saint Star Master," Axe 1 Master said. "It's him." Jian Wushuang's expression changed. Axe 1 Master had given him a detailed list of experts, including experts from various forces in the surrounding star worlds. Among them, there was naturally an introduction by Earth Saint Star Master. The first impression that Earth Saint Star Master gave Jian Wushuang was that he was a difficult and terrifying super figure. First of all, he was a genuine ruler realm expert. Secondly, he was extremely eccentric and eccentric. It could even be said that he was crazy. He was an old monster who had lived for God knows how many years. His hometown, the star world where he was born, had already reached its end a long time ago and finally collapsed. However, he survived. At that time, he was only a principal's master. However, after such a principal's master collapsed in the astral world where he was born and had no worries at all, he began to crazily pursue his own strength. He roamed the 3 great battlefields and killed crazily, just like the current God Fei Master. He killed everyone he saw and did not care who he offended. At that time, this Earth Saint Star Master had stirred up a bloody storm in the 3 great battlefields and made a great reputation for himself. At that time, he had offended many experts. There were even experts who joined hands to kill him. There was even a ruler realm expert who had personally made a move, but he had managed to escape. In the end, he had even obtained an opportunity in the 3 great battlefields and leaped to become a ruler realm expert. Naturally, no one could do anything to him. However, after this Earth Saint Star Master became a ruler realm expert, he gradually restrained his killing. He no longer killed as wantonly as before. Instead, he chose an Earth star to occupy. He named this Earth star the Earth Saint Star. After that, the Earth Saint Star and the Earth Saint Star Master were recognized as the most untouchable existences in this territory. The Earth Saint Star Master is a crazy person who likes to kill. He has a very strange personality. I can't ask him for the ice heart glazed jade. Jian Wushuang did not frown. Although he had some strength now, he could not ask him to face a ruler realm expert. Moreover, this ruler realm expert was a person who liked to kill. If Jian Wushuang took the initiative to come to him, the Earth Saint Star Master would kill him before he could explain why he came. My young friend, the icy heart glazed jade is indeed a bit troublesome, but you don't have to worry too much. Although the Earth Saint Star Master is not easy to deal with, he is only one person. Star Palace has some influence in this territory. I will try to contact the Earth Saint Star Master in the name of Star Palace and see if he is willing to exchange the icy heart glazed jade, Axe 1 Master said. In that case, I'll leave it to you, Axe 1 Master. Jian Wushuang nodded. He had no choice but to ask Star Palace to negotiate with him. For the time being, he did not have the ability to face the Saint Star Master. In addition to icy heart glazed jade, I also want you to ask about someone for me, Axe 1 Master, Jian Wushuang said. Who? Axe 1 Master looked at him. Star Luo Master. Jian Wushuang said. Star Luo Master? Who is that? Axe 1 Master was puzzled. I don't know much about the identity of Star Luo Master, but I know that she was involved in the world-ending war in the Divine Beginning Realm. She stayed in the Divine Beginning Realm for a long time. During these 10,000 years, she was still in the Divine Beginning Realm, but she disappeared soon after. I suspect that she came to the universe battlefield. Even if she's not in this territory, she might be in the nearby territory, Jian Wushuang said. Star Luo Master. This person was Leng Ruxia's master. In his previous life, it was this Star Luo Master and the 3 Masters of the Saint Realm who forcefully opened the passage to the eternal chaotic world and brought Leng Ruxia to the Divine Beginning Realm. It was also the opening of the passage. It allowed Xian Yi to find an opportunity to open the reincarnation passage and send his soul and Leng Ruxuang's soul to the Divine Beginning Realm. Jian Wushuang did not know much about Leng Ruxuang's master. He had carefully checked the information of Star Luo Master in the Temporal Temple. He only knew that she had stayed in the Divine Beginning Realm for a long time. However, she was not a ruler expert who had risen in the Divine Beginning Realm, but from the outside world. She had participated in the destruction of the 7-star mysterious sect. It was because of this that the 3 Saint Realm Masters of the 3 Saint Realms had helped him open the passage to the eternal chaotic world. However, when Jian Wushuang came to the Divine Beginning Realm and gradually rose to power, Star Luo Master disappeared completely. Jian Wushuang asked the Temporal Temple to investigate, but they did not find any trace of her. Therefore, Jian Wushuang suspected that Star Luo Master had come to the universe battlefield. If Star Luo Master really came, Leng Rushue would most likely be with her. The main reason why Jian Wushuang wanted to find Star Luo Master was to find Leng Rushue. In Jian Wushuang's opinion, there were two ways to restore his wife's body. The Ice Heart Glazed Jade was just one of them. What Jian Wushuang wanted to do more was to find Leng Rushue and suppress her, then he would find a way to let Leng Rushue regain control of her body. Naturally, he had to find the Ice Heart Glazed Jade, Star Luo Master, and Leng Rushue as well. I've never heard of this Star Luo Master. But since he's a ruler realm expert, it's impossible for him to be unknown. I'll use some of Star Palace's intelligence abilities to look for him for you. As long as he's in this territory, Star Palace should be able to find him. But if he's in another territory, although Star Palace has some intelligence abilities, we're not so sure that we can find him, Axe One Master said. Well, I'm counting on you, Axe One Master, Jian Wushuang said. Don't stand on ceremony with me. Whether I contact Saint Star Master for you or Star Luo Master for you, I won't do it for free. You have to pay the price, Axe One Master said suddenly. Jian Wushuang was stunned. My young friend, I know that you received a lot of contribution points in the True Treasure Vault, and then you gave some to Heavy Master and Saber Python Master, and then you exchanged for the Absolute Shadow Divine Sword. But if I'm not wrong, you should still have 20 contribution points. These 20 contribution points are the price for Star Palace to contact Saint Star Master and Star Luo Master for you, Axe One Master said with a smile. You need contribution points to gather information? Jian Wushuang asked with a strange expression. Of course, in the Star Palace, no matter what resources you want to use, you have to pay a price, Axe One Master said. Jian Wushuang had no choice but to take out his last 20 contribution points. Chapter 3546. 3546. After obtaining the shadow-killing divine sword and asking Axe One Master to track down Ice Heart Glazed Jade and Master Star Luo, Jian Wushuang was ready to venture into the depths of Devil Smoke Valley. Devil Smoke Valley is too vast. Although there are many routes to enter the core area from the outer area of Devil Smoke Valley, there is only one closer route to Star Palace's stronghold. Moreover, to reach the depths of Devil Smoke Valley from this route, one must pass through the Blazing Sea. It will take at least several decades, Jian Wushuang muttered. At his current speed, it would still take him dozens of years to travel at full speed. However, he remembered how far the journey was. I have no choice. I have to go to the depths of Devil Smoke Valley. I can still take that road. Jian Wushuang made up his mind and immediately headed toward Devil Smoke Valley. This time, Jian Wushuang did not stay in the outer area of Devil Smoke Valley. He went directly to the core area of Devil Smoke Valley at the fastest speed. However, it still took him 3 years to reach the Blazing Sea. The Blazing Sea, as its name implied, was a scorching ocean. This ocean was boundless, and no one knew how big it was because it not only stretched out many branches, but the center of the Blazing Sea was an unexplored area. The so-called unexplored area was a place that the experts of the surrounding astral world had not been able to explore since the appearance of Devil Smoke Valley battlefield. It was not that the experts did not want to explore it, but the central area of the Blazing Sea was too dangerous. Even a ruler realm expert would die if he intruded there. Naturally, no one dared to touch it. However, other than the central area, the other places in the Blazing Sea were relatively safe. This is the Blazing Sea. Jian Wushuang had already arrived in the Blazing Sea. What entered his eyes was a sea of blazing red flames. Endless blazing flames were burning wildly in all directions. The entire world was burning red. As soon as he arrived here, he could already feel the extremely hot air in the void. The temperature here is too high. An ordinary principles master would not be able to withstand this scorching temperature, Jian Wushuang thought to himself. The astonishing temperature baked the world and his divine body at once. Jian Wushuang's divine power was extremely powerful, so he could easily withstand the scorching temperature by relying on his own power. I can only reach the depths of Devil Smoke Valley after passing through the Blazing Sea. Take your time, Jian Wushuang said with a faint smile. Then he flew forward according to the star map. It was a boring journey. 15 years had passed. Although it had been 15 years, Jian Wushuang had only crossed half the distance of the blazing sea. The rest of the journey was still long. Now I finally understand why it takes so long for experts from different astral worlds to go back to the battlefield. I can't help it. The battlefield is too big, and it takes too long to go back and forth. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. Ha! Jian Wushuang suddenly frowned and stopped. The temperature seems to be higher than other places? Jian Wushuang looked around at the blazing sea and his face suddenly darkened. No, the temperature is rising. Jian Wushuang felt that the void he was in was obviously different from the other places in the blazing sea. The temperature was so high that even though he used the power protection, he still felt a little uncomfortable. The temperature was still rising. At the same time, a suffocating hot aura slowly rose under Jian Wushuang's feet. What is this? Jian Wushuang's expression changed. But before he could react, the surrounding blazing sea suddenly shook, and the suffocating hot aura completely erupted. With a roar that sounded like a landslide, the blazing sea under Jian Wushuang's feet violently rose up. It was originally burning on the ground, but at this moment, it completely rose up. It was as if a huge wave had suddenly rolled up on the surface of the blazing sea. At this moment, the blazing sea suddenly swept up a layer of fierce flames, huge waves. The vast and mighty fierce flames, huge waves crazily flapped the void and swept out. Most importantly, the fierce flames that rose up came from the bottom of the blazing sea. The temperature was frighteningly high. Oh no! Jian Wushuang was shocked. Flame tide, it's the flame tide. Visit Readle.me for extra chapters. When Jian Wushuang was preparing to explore the depths of Devil's Smoke Valley, he had read all kinds of information about the blazing sea. In the blazing sea, as long as he did not go to the central area, he would rarely encounter any danger, but it did not mean that he did not encounter any danger. The flame tide that appeared now could be regarded as a major disaster in the blazing sea. It was like a tsunami in the blazing sea. The information about the blazing sea stated that if he encountered a flame tide in the blazing sea, he could only run away. Jian Wushuang reacted, but the flame tide appeared under his feet and was too close to him. The waves of raging flames swept toward him at such a close distance. No matter how fast he could not dodge the first flame tide. Since he could not dodge it, he could only rely on his divine body to forcibly resist it. The incoming flame tide directly covered Jian Wushuang's divine body. Endless raging flames swept over Jian Wushuang's entire body, and a terrifying burning erosion power was transmitted over. Although this erosion power was weakened by more than half when it passed through the blood crystal armor, there was still a lot of scorching power left to erode Jian Wushuang's body. Jian Wushuang could only rely on his divine power to crazily resist this erosion power, which consumed a lot of divine power. In just a moment, Jian Wushuang felt that he had consumed 1/30th of his divine power. One should not underestimate it. After all, Jian Wushuang's divine power was as vast as the sea because he was a perfect chaotic creature. Even a ruler realm expert's divine power was far inferior to his, usually, unless he had to use a large amount of divine power to activate the heaven-cleaving skill. He did not need to care about the consumption of his divine power when fighting others or using absolute arts. It was clear how vast his divine power was. However, the erosion of the first flame tide had consumed 1/30th of his divine power in an instant. If it were an ordinary principles master, even a principles master in the 5th or 6th realm of the void, his divine power would have evaporated in an instant. Terrifying. This flame tide is too terrifying. Jian Wushuang felt a trace of fear in his heart, especially when he saw the successive waves of flame tides behind him. His expression changed drastically. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 3547. The first flame tide alone has cost me more than 1/30th of my divine power. The flame tide behind me is even hotter and more massive. Once I'm completely sucked in, even if my divine power is vast, I might not be able to withstand it. Jian Wushuang was shocked. He immediately burst out with his fastest speed and rushed to the side. Although the flame tide was terrifying, its speed was actually not very fast. The first flame tide just now could not be avoided because Jian Wushuang was too close to it, but the remaining flame tide Jian Wushuang could avoid it. However, just as he was about to break out of the range of the flame tide, a sudden red light attracted Jian Wushuang's attention. What's that? Jian Wushuang looked at the red light in front of him. Although it was surrounded by red flames because of the flame tide, the red light was very eye-catching in the midst of the flames. Whatever it is, take it away. Jian Wushuang waved his hand and caught the red light while moving to the side. However, the moment his right hand touched the red light, an incredible scorching power was transmitted directly from the red light. Almost in an instant, Jian Wushuang's right hand burned up. Jian Wushuang was shocked. Although his right hand was burning up, he still endured the intense pain to grab the red light and put it into his interspatial ring. After doing all this, Jian Wushuang escaped from the range of the flame tide as fast as he could. The flame tide was still rolling up crazily, and its range was getting larger and larger. It swept out in a vast and mighty manner. However, Jian Wushuang had already arrived in the void outside the flame tide. He watched the flame tide crazily sweep around, but the flame tide could no longer affect him. However, at this moment, Jian Wushuang did not pay attention to the flame tide. Instead, he was checking his divine body. My divine power was consumed by 1/5 at that moment? Jian Wushuang was completely stunned at this moment. When the first flame tide came, he had lost more than 1/30 of his divine power. Although he was a little surprised, he could understand. After all, it was a flame tide that could make people's faces change. It was normal for it to have such erosive power. However, Jian Wushuang could not understand. He had just put the red light into his interspatial ring. He had just caught the red light and put it into his interspatial ring in an instant. The process was so short, it had only been a moment, but in such a short time, not only had his right palm been completely burned, but he had also used up 1/5 of his divine power. He had used up 1/5 of his massive divine power at one time? What kind of terrifying power would be needed to do that? As for the red light, Jian Wushuang immediately began to inspect his interspatial ring. He found a shocking scene. After all, there were many treasures in his interspatial ring, which he had collected after killing many experts over the years, but now, except for a few extremely high-level treasures, all the other treasures in his interspatial ring had disappeared. Yes, they had disappeared. To be exact, because the red light had entered the interspatial ring, the original treasures had been directly evaporated by the terrifying temperature contained in the red light. Only a limited number of extremely high-level treasures had managed to resist the terrifying temperature contained in the red light and remained. Jian Wushuang immediately switched the remaining few treasures to another interspatial ring. Then he carefully looked at the red light. It was not until the red light was the only treasure left in the interspatial ring that the red light finally quieted down. Jian Wushuang finally saw the true appearance of the red light. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. The red light was actually a strange-shaped knife disc. The knife disc looked a bit old, but its surface was red and boiling hot, which appeared because it had been at the bottom of the blazing sea for a long time. What is this knife disc? Jian Wushuang frowned and looked at the knife disc. He could not see the material of the knife disc, but he could imagine that it had stayed at the bottom of the blazing sea for such a long time without being damaged. The material of the knife disc must be amazing. Jian Wushuang also tried to refine the knife disc, but as soon as his soul power touched it, his soul immediately began to hurt. This was caused by his soul being unable to withstand the incredible temperature on the knife disc. The temperature is too high. I can't even touch it, let alone refine it, Jian Wushuang murmured, but soon he felt relieved. Although I don't know what this cutter board is, I can tell that it must have a great origin. Maybe it's a very special treasure. I just don't know its use. I have no choice but to keep it. When I have the chance, I'll find someone to see what it is. Jian Wushuang let out a sigh of relief. Even though he had lost 1/5 of his divine power and his right palm had been burned, his strength was still at his level. The burning of his palm would not harm him at all, and the divine power he had lost could be recovered at the fastest speed. The only thing that made Jian Wushuang feel a bit distressed was the treasures in his interspatial ring that had been evaporated. After all, they had been accumulated over the years. However, when he thought of the miraculous properties of the knife disc, Jian Wushuang felt better. Even if he did not know the exact origin and use of the knife disc, he could guess its value. It was definitely more valuable than all the treasures evaporated from his interspatial ring combined. A sudden boom made Jian Wushuang look toward the void in front of him. In the void in front of him, the huge flame tide filled the entire sky. The flame tide had crashed into a huge rock that had stood in the middle of the blazing sea for many years. It had long been immune to the impact of the flame tide. It only made some booming sounds. The flame tide is too terrifying. It will sweep over a larger and larger area. I don't know when it will completely stop. If an expert accidentally falls into the range of the flame tide at this time, I'm afraid the end will be quite miserable. Jian Wushuang sighed. However, he did not think too much about the flame tide. Instead, he continued to fly toward his target, the core area of Devil's Smoke Valley. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 3548. In the blink of an eye, nearly 20 years had passed. Jian Wushuang had finally crossed over from the blazing sea. Jian Wushuang looked at the blazing sea, which was quite far away, and could not help smiling. In the blazing sea, the boring travel time was secondary. The key was that the temperature of the blazing sea was too high. He had to rely on his own power to withstand the scorching temperature at all times, but even so, he still felt extremely dry and hot. The dry heat for decades would inevitably make people feel irritated. I completely followed the star map given to me by the Axe One Master. After passing through the blazing sea, I have now reached the core area of Devil's Smoke Valley. If nothing unexpected happens, I am now in the Nine Twists Demon Cave, Jian Wushuang muttered. More than 90% of the core area of Devil's Smoke Valley was unexplored. Even the remaining 10% of the area that had been explored was still unbelievably large, and such a large territory. Naturally, there were many special places. The Nine Twists Demon Cave was the core area of the Devil's Smoke Valley, a relatively famous special place. The Nine Twists Demon Cave not only has many natural dangers like the Nine Twists Thunder Tribulation and the Devil Cloud Sea, but there are also some terrifying monsters living in the Nine Twists Demon Cave. Although these monsters are generally low in intelligence, their strength is very shocking. It is said that the most ordinary monsters have combat strength comparable to the masters of the 6 states of the void. And some of the stronger monsters can even suppress peak experts of the 6 states of the void. In addition, among these monsters, there is the most terrifying blood-armored monster. It is said that this blood-armored monster can fight against a ruler realm expert. It lives here and hates us foreign cultivators. As long as we meet it, it won't hesitate to kill us. I'm traveling alone in the Nine Twists Demon Cave, so I have to be careful, Jian Wushuang thought. He had read the information about the Nine Twists Demon Cave and knew how dangerous it was. It was not like the outer area of Devil's Smoke Valley. As long as he did not foolishly intrude into some dangerous places, he could do whatever he wanted in the outer area, but not in the core area, especially in the Nine Twists Demon Cave. The monsters in the Nine Twists Demon Cave were known to all the experts in the astral world. Although the Nine Twists Demon Cave is dangerous, it contains many opportunities. There are also many experts wandering around here. I really hope to fight with them as soon as possible, Jian Wushuang murmured. In the core area of Devil's Smoke Valley, especially in places like the Nine Twists Demon Cave, there were many experts, and they were usually very strong. Any one of them could reach the level of the 6th Void Realm. The reason why Jian Wushuang chose to come here was that there were many opportunities, and the most important thing was that there were many experts. I wonder who will be my first opponent. With a hint of expectation, Jian Wushuang began to explore the 9 Twists Demon Cave. 3 days later, a red-haired sloppy old man was half lying behind a black boulder on a pitch-black land. Although he looked very relaxed and comfortable, his soul energy had long since spread out, allowing him to see everything in his surroundings. The slightest movement in the surrounding void would immediately attract his attention. And at this moment, an unfamiliar aura suddenly intruded into the range of the red-haired sloppy old man's soul perception. The red-haired sloppy old man's gaze focused slightly. What an unfamiliar aura. And this aura doesn't seem very strong. It's only at the level of an ordinary principles master? The red-haired sloppy old man was somewhat puzzled. This was because this was the core region of Devil Smoke Valley. Under normal circumstances, those who rushed here to explore the core region were usually experts at the 5th level of the void. No matter how weak they were, they would only be able to join forces with a few peak 4th level void realm experts. Even so, they could only walk around some ordinary places in the Blackheart region. But this was the 9 Twists Demon Cave. Even in the core region, it was an extremely dangerous place. Under such circumstances, those who dared to venture here were usually at the 6th realm of the void, or perhaps they were at the peak of the 5th level of the void. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. However, the aura that appeared within the range of the red-haired sloppy old man's soul perception was indeed not very strong. However, in terms of aura, it was much weaker compared to the 4th level of the void. However, to a principles master, he could not completely rely on aura to evaluate the other party's strength. This man, the red-haired sloppy elder, stood up, and at the same time, he had a good look at his appearance. This appearance and the divine sword on his back, could it be the blood sword master who has been famous in the outer area recently? The red-haired sloppy elder pondered. Although he had been wandering in the 9 Twists Demon Cave for some time and had not returned, he still knew clearly about some things that had happened in the 3 battlefields through the forces behind him. Of course, that included Jian Wushuang's reputation in the outer area of Devil Smoke Valley. After all, many people in the outside world believed that Jian Wushuang was qualified to fight with experts of the 6 void realms. Such a figure was already qualified to be heard by those experts of the 6 void realms. Well, it should be him. This place is close to the Blazing Sea. It seems that he has just passed through the Blazing Sea, the red-haired sloppy old man said softly. Then he began to ponder. Although this blood sword master has made quite a name for himself in the outer region of Devil Smoke Valley, the people he fights there are only some Void 4th level experts or Void 5th level principles masters. As for Void 6th realm experts, I'm afraid that he has never encountered them before. Although many people now say that this blood sword master has the strength to fight against Void 6th realm experts, without truly fighting against Void 6th realm experts, how can he be in charge? At least, I don't believe it. But now, he has come to this 9 Twists Demon Cave to explore, and he actually met me? The red-haired sloppy old man muttered to himself, but his gaze gradually became cold. This blood sword master has a low-level universe true treasure armor, and the outside world is saying that he has an extremely special time-space type universe true treasure. That time-space type universe true treasure is of an extremely high level. It might be a high-level universe true treasure. The red-haired sloppy old man didn't care about a single low-level universe true treasure armor. However, a time-space type true treasure that was suspected to have reached the level of a high-level universe true treasure was enough to make him excited and even go crazy. It's rare to meet this blood sword master. This is equivalent to the heavens giving me a chance. If I miss it, I'm afraid I won't have such an opportunity in the future. The red-haired sloppy old man's eyes were burning. The next moment, he rushed towards the human figure within his soul perception. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 3549. Jian Wushuang slowly moved forward on the black earth of the 9 Twists Demon Cave. Because there were too many dangerous places in the 9 Twists Demon Cave, he did not dare to move too fast. It's said that the monsters in the Nine Twists Demon Cave live on the Black Earth. Most of the time, they live underground and only come out occasionally to get some fresh air. However, I haven't seen any monsters in the past few days, so I don't know what they look like, Jian Wushuang muttered. Huh. Jian Wushuang's face suddenly darkened. He had already sensed the killing intent coming from his side, and a strange figure had appeared there. It actually appeared silently by my side, but my soul power did not sense it? What a good trick. Jian Wushuang smiled indifferently and immediately activated his life magic power. The red-haired sloppy old man suddenly appeared beside Jian Wushuang. He had completely set his eyes on Jian Wushuang, even though he did not think that Jian Wushuang had the battle strength of the sixth realm of the void. However, he did not want to give Jian Wushuang a chance to kill him. Instead, he unleashed his strongest power as soon as he attacked. A dazzling blood-red saber light with a suffocating cold aura slashed toward Jian Wushuang. The timing of his attack was just right. In the red-haired sloppy elder's opinion, even if his attack could not kill Jian Wushuang, it could at least severely injure him. He had a high chance of killing Jian Wushuang. However, he did not expect that Jian Wushuang would react the moment he attacked and immediately attack. This move was still performed with the Blood Mountain sword. Because the time was too short, Jian Wushuang did not have the time to perform any amazing swordsmanship. It was purely a move that relied on his own brute force and his strongest power. The Blood Mountain sword and the saber light collided head-on. An extremely powerful force immediately surged from the saber light and forced Jian Wushuang to retreat at once. Jian Wushuang retreated rapidly, and it took him a long time to stabilize himself. Impressive. This saber alone should have the battle strength close to the advanced level of the sixth realm. There are indeed many experts in the Nine Twists Demon Cave. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly, and at the same time, he saw the appearance of the person. This appearance, you are the Red Nether Master, right? Jian Wushuang asked. Yes, I am. The Red Nether Master stared at Jian Wushuang with a cold gaze. Bloodsword Master, I didn't expect you to be able to take my attack without being noticed. It doesn't seem like you used up much divine power. Huh, it's my honor for you to recognize me, Red Nether Master. However, I don't have any enmity with you. It's not right for you to launch a sneak attack without saying anything. After all, you're an expert of the sixth realm of the void, Jian Wushuang said. Humph, I don't care whether you have enmity or not. As long as I don't like you, or if you have something I want, I can kill you at will, Red Nether Master said coldly. It said that you have a time-space type universe true treasure on you. Bloodsword Master, hand over that time-space type true treasure and I'll let you go. Otherwise, you'll have to stay alive. Oh. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows, then he smiled and said, Red Nether Master, you're right. Cultivators who wander around the 3 battlefields don't need any reason to kill each other. They can kill each other if they want to, but I'm afraid you're not qualified to do so. You'll know whether I'm qualified or not. Red Nether Master did not waste any time. Since Jian Wushuang did not take the initiative to hand over the time-space type true treasure, he immediately took action. A terrifying speed burst forth. Red Nether Master was clearly still some distance away from Jian Wushuang, but in the blink of an eye, he had already arrived in front of Jian Wushuang, and the dark red saber in his hand, he struck out fiercely once again. This strike had the ability to split mountains and break mountains, as if it wanted to cut everything in front of him into 2. Seeing this scene, Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed with excitement. If you want to fight, then let's fight. Jian Wushuang's aura suddenly soared, and an extremely violent aura suddenly rose. He held the Blood Mountain sword with one hand and instantly slashed. A scarlet sword light easily cut through the void, and with a roar like that of an ancient fierce beast, it suddenly slashed out. It was the peerless sword technique Shixiang. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. It was the same Shixiang move, but after 50 years of practice, it had reached the level of an advanced level 6 absolute art. Coupled with Jian Wushuang's terrifying power, it instantly collided with the saber light of the Red Nether Master. With another loud sound, Jian Wushuang staggered and took a few steps back. But the Red Nether Master also took a few steps back. Is this an advanced level 6 secret skill? The Red Nether Master looked at Jian Wushuang in surprise. Ah! Jian Wushuang just smiled faintly and then attacked again. Humph! The Red Nether Master snorted, and his eyes turned cold as he went up to meet Jian Wushuang. The two immediately engaged in a fierce battle in the Nine Twists Demon Cave. Although the Red Nether Master was a genuine expert of the 6 Void Realms, his cultivation was only at the initial stage of the 6 Void Realms. He was still far from reaching the advanced stage of the 6 Void Realms. As for Jian Wushuang, he activated his Life Divine Power by relying on his advantage in basic divine power to activate the first stage of the Blood Crystal Armor. The power he unleashed was definitely stronger than that of an expert at the peak of the 5 Void Realms. He was only slightly weaker than an expert of the 6 Void Realms. However, Jian Wushuang could make up for this difference with his own swordsmanship. After all, he had created a complete set of swordsmanship. These swordsmanship had reached the advanced level of level 6. During the fierce battle with the Red Nether Master, each of his swordsmanship was an advanced level 6 absolute art. This was something that the Red Nether Master could not do. With the advantage of the absolute art, Jian Wushuang could fight the Red Nether Master head-on. Clang, 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 clang. A low sound of collision could be heard. The two of them had fought in the void for nearly 100 times. Although the Red Nether Master had some advantage in these nearly 100 collisions, he did not have much of an advantage. Red Nether Master, is that all you've got? Jian Wushuang suddenly stopped what he was doing and looked at the Red Nether Master. The Red Nether Master had an ugly look on his face. He had not taken Jian Wushuang seriously before and thought that his strength was enough to crush Jian Wushuang and kill him. But now, in a real fight, he could not even completely suppress his opponent, let alone kill him. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 3550. Although my strength is only at this level, you are still slightly weaker than me. What are you so proud of? Red Nether Master shouted in a low voice. Slightly weaker than you? Jian Wushuang laughed playfully. That may not be the case. As soon as he finished speaking, Jian Wushuang put the Blood Mountain sword back into its scabbard. Then, with a flip of his hand, a purple divine sword emitting a faint cold light appeared in his hand. This purple divine sword was, of course, the absolute Shadow Divine Sword. Red Nether Master, now you and I will fight again, Jian Wushuang said with a faint smile. Of course, Red Nether Master also saw Jian Wushuang's action, and his expression could not help changing. That sword is a universe true treasure. Blood Sword Master clearly has an offensive magic weapon at the level of a universe true treasure, but he hasn't taken it out before. Red Nether Master's expression was gloomy. He knew that he had been underestimated by Jian Wushuang. Kid, you are too conceited. With a stern shout, Red Nether Master attacked again. This time, he tried his best to fully unleash his power. Jian Wushuang took a simple step forward and instantly slashed down with the long sword in his hand. It was the Peerless Sword technique Shi Xiang. Jian Wushuang used the same sword technique with the same power. The only difference was that Jian Wushuang had used the Blood Mountain sword before, but now he used the Shadow Divine Sword. However, the power of the last sword attack was obviously much more powerful. A low sound of collision was heard. Red Nether Master took a few steps back. However, Jian Wushuang was not affected at all. After a head-on collision, he immediately gave chase. In the void, Jian Wushuang and Red Nether Master were fighting again. However, the situation had been completely reversed. Previously, Red Nether Master had gained the upper hand in the fierce battle between Jian Wushuang and Red Nether Master with Blood Mountain Sword. However, now that Jian Wushuang had changed to Absolute Shadow Divine Sword, the power of his swordsmanship had increased greatly. In a head-on collision, Jian Wushuang had the advantage, so naturally, Jian Wushuang had the upper hand. Bastard! After the Blood Sword Master changed to a divine weapon, the power of his swordsmanship has increased by so much? The Red Nether Master's face was extremely ugly. He carefully looked at the purple divine sword in Jian Wushuang's hand. This sword is definitely an advanced universe true treasure, and it should be considered a top-grade one among the advanced universe true treasures. Otherwise, its power would not have increased so much all of a sudden. I'm not playing with you anymore. Jian Wushuang's voice suddenly turned cold, and his face became serious. A supreme destructive will suddenly rose. This destructive will, with a hatred that was determined to die, completely exploded from Jian Wushuang's hand. A sword light also extended from the heaven and earth. This sword light seemed to have split the sky of the Nine Twists demon cave in half. An absolute art at the peak of the 6th rank? The moment the Red Nether Master saw this sword light, his expression immediately changed. When Jian Wushuang had used several advanced 6th rank absolute arts, he was already surprised enough. However, he had never expected that Jian Wushuang had also created an absolute art at the peak of the 6th rank. Red Nether Master clenched his teeth and swung his saber to block the sword light. The sword light crushed his saber technique almost instantly, and a powerful destructive force was transmitted to his body. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. Although he was protected by the universe true treasure armor, which had offset most of the power, the remaining power entered his divine body and directly depleted 10% of his divine body. That sword is indeed a top-tier senior universe true treasure. If it were an ordinary senior universe true treasure, my true treasure armor could at least cancel out more than 90% of its power. However, my true treasure armor only cancelled out 70% of its power with his sword. Red Nether Master's face was cold. I can't keep fighting with him. Let's go. Red Nether Master did not hesitate at all and rushed toward the void space at the fastest speed. Seeing this, Jian Wushuang did not intend to chase after him. He knew very well that although he could suppress or defeat the Red Nether Master, it was still very difficult to kill him. It's just as I thought. I'm a perfect level life form. Even though I'm only at the immortal saint realm, my basic divine power is still much stronger than that of an ordinary principles master. I have an advantage in basic divine power, and the first stage of the power of the blood crystal armor brings out my advantage almost perfectly. Even if I only have 4 parts of the power of my will and 1 part of the power of my life divine power, I'm not much weaker than an ordinary expert of the 6 void realms. My swordsmanship has almost reached the advanced level of stage 6. With Jian Wushuang's help, I can fight against weaker experts of the 6 void realms head-on. For example, the Red Nether Master was at a slight disadvantage at the beginning. However, once I take out my absolute shadow sword, I can easily suppress him, Jian Wushuang murmured. He had guessed that his current strength was no weaker than that of an ordinary expert of the 6 void realms. After the battle with the Red Nether Master, it proved that he indeed had such strength. Of course, the Red Nether Master was an ordinary expert of the 6 void realms, which was why Jian Wushuang had the upper hand. But do not forget, the battle strength that Jian Wushuang mentioned did not include the heaven-cleaving skill. The heaven-cleaving skill was quite harmful to Jian Wushuang's divine power. Therefore, Jian Wushuang had decided that he would not use it if he could not use it during his time in the universe battlefield. For example, he did not use the heaven-cleaving skill during his fight with the Red Nether Master. Once he used it, his battle strength could instantly rise to the peak of the 6 void realms. In the end, Red Nether Master is still a little weak, but I can use it to test my strength, Jian Wushuang said with a faint smile. Then he took a step forward and continued to fly forward. Red Nether Master, who was not far from Jian Wushuang, returned to a black boulder after he had gotten rid of Jian Wushuang. Red Nether Master exhaled and began to inspect his divine body. His expression immediately turned ugly. Damn it. I wanted to kill Blood Sword Master and take his time-space type true treasure, but I failed. Not only did I fail to kill him, but I also lost more than 20% of my divine power. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 3551. The Red Nether Master had used up a lot of his divine power in the fight with Jian Wushuang. Later, Jian Wushuang had used up 10% of his divine power in one strike. The Red Nether Master had indeed used up more than 20% of his divine power. However, they were in the universe battlefield and the Nine Twists Demon Cave, the core area of Devil Smoke Valley. It was very difficult to recover divine power in the universe battlefield. At least, it was much more difficult than in other places. As a perfect life form, Jian Wushuang's divine power was incredible. However, he had lost 1/5 of his divine power in order to get the mysterious blade in the flame tide. Even though he had been in the universe battlefield for nearly 20 years, he still could not fully recover 1/5 of his divine power. It was difficult to recover divine power in the universe battlefield. As for Red Nether Master's 20% godly power, it would take him at least several decades to fully recover it, and he would need some elixirs to assist him. It could be said that he had really failed this time. Red Nether. A deep voice suddenly sounded. Red Nether Master turned to look at the source of the voice. When he saw the person who had come, he was not surprised. After all, his soul power had been spreading all this time. He knew that the other party had appeared within the range of his soul perception. Shuekong, why are you here? Red Nether Master asked. I happened to pass by here, so I wanted to say hello to you. However, you don't look too well. Did something happen? Shuekong, a towering man with a body of more than 3 meters in golden armor, appeared in front of Red Nether Master. Shuekong. There were many dangers in the universe battlefield, but there were countless great beings who came to explore. Although these great beings came to different astral worlds or forces, sometimes they would come into contact with each other for common interests. After a long time, some of them could even become good friends. For example, the life and death brother of Heavy Master, Purple Sound Master, was not a member of Star Palace. As for Shuekong and Red Nether Master, they had been wandering around the Nine Twists Demon Cave all year round. They had frequent contact with each other and had a good relationship with each other. Red Nether Master naturally was not too wary of Shuekong. I just had a fight with someone and ended up being rejected, Red Nether Master said. Oh. Shuekong's expression changed. He took a careful look at Red Nether Master and nodded slightly. Judging from the aura on your body, it has indeed weakened a little. However, given your temperament, if you encounter some powerful people in this Nine Twists Demon Cave, you won't fight with them at all. So, who exactly did you meet? Blood Sword Master, do you know? Red Nether Master glanced at Shuekong. Blood Sword Master? Shuekong recalled for a moment, but he immediately remembered. Are you talking about that Blood Sword Master who made quite a name for himself in the outer area of Devil Smoke Valley some time ago? It's him. Red Nether Master nodded. That's not right. Isn't that Blood Sword Master's strength not yet at the true level of the 6th realm of the void? With your strength, you should definitely be able to crush him, Shuekong said strangely. I thought the same before, so I chose to attack without hesitation. But in the end, after I really fought with him, I realized that his strength is far from being as simple as the rumors say. He definitely has the combat strength of the 6th realm of the void, and he is definitely not weak among the 6 levels of the void. When I fought with him, not only did I not gain any upper hand, but I was also slightly suppressed by him. In the end, he even used his ultimate move and destroyed 10% of my divine power. I was so scared that I immediately ran away, Red Nether Master said. Is there such a thing? Shuekong immediately became interested. Quick, tell me in detail. Red Nether Master did not hide anything and told Shuekong about the battle. He did not exaggerate Jian Wushuang's strength. Instead, he told Shuekong everything he knew. After hearing Red Nether Master's words, the excitement in Shuekong's eyes grew. He created several advanced Tier 6 skills at the same time, and he even created a peak Tier 6 skill? This Blood Sword Master is interesting. Visit Readle. Me for extra chapters. But, do you have any ideas about this Blood Sword Master? Red Nether Master immediately looked over. I definitely don't have any big ideas. It's already very difficult to kill someone with his level of strength. I'm only interested in fighting with him. After all, it's rare for the Nine Twists Demon Cave to be lively. It's rare to meet an interesting newcomer, so of course I have to go and greet him, said Shui Kong with a smile. If you want to go, hurry up. You might be able to catch up with him before he gets too far, Red Nether Master said. Then he'll go. Shui Kong did not hesitate and followed the direction that Red Nether Master had pointed out. Shui Kong was extremely fast, and Jian Wushuang did not try his best to travel in the Nine Twists Demon Cave. He also did not change his direction, so it did not take long for Shui Kong to catch up with Jian Wushuang. Ha, Blood Sword Master, stop. A hearty laughter came from the void behind him. Jian Wushuang immediately stopped and turned to look at the void behind him. He immediately saw Shui Kong, the towering man who was more than 3 meters tall. Shui Kong did not conceal his aura, nor did he intend to sneak up on Jian Wushuang. He just swaggered in front of Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang immediately recognized him. Shui Kong Master, what's the matter? Jian Wushuang asked with a smile. Ha, Blood Sword Master, to be honest, I just heard about you from the Red Nether Master. I also know that you've made the Red Nether Master suffer a great loss. That's why I came here, Shui Kong said frankly. You heard about it from Red Nether Master? Jian Wushuang nodded slightly, then he smiled and said, I heard that you have a good relationship with Red Nether Master. Are you here to help Red Nether Master get back at him? No, don't misunderstand. Shui Kong waved his hand. It's true that I have a good relationship with Red Nether Master. However, he came to you on his own initiative. Even if he was killed by you, he deserved it. I want to help him. As for why I came here, I just wanted to have a fight with you after I heard about your strength from Red Nether Master. Jian Wushuang was not surprised by Shui Kong's reply. Jian Wushuang had already guessed the reason for his visit the moment he saw Shui Kong Master. He had read Shui Kong Master's information and knew that Shui Kong Master was a true battle maniac. He was a so-called battle maniac. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 3552. A battle maniac who liked to fight immediately chased after him after hearing about him from the Red Nether Master. Of course, his purpose was to fight with him. Blood Sword Master, Red Nether has a high opinion of you. Don't let me down, said Shui Kong. I'll try my best, Jian Wushuang said with a faint smile. Then his figure flashed. He appeared directly in front of Shui Kong. With a Blood Mountain sword in hand, he slashed out with his sword. A brilliant blood-red sword light filled the air. This blood-red sword light carried an extremely violent aura. It was the Peerless Sword Manual, Shixiang. Not bad. It's indeed an advanced level 6 secret skill. Seeing Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship, Shui Kong was delighted. With a flip of his hand, a black stone stick appeared in his hand. This black stone stick looked ordinary, but the aura it emitted was extremely shocking. It was also a powerful advanced universe supreme treasure. With the stone stick in his hand, Shui Kong waved it. This swing seemed simple and did not have any fancy moves, but it was such a simple and direct stick skill, and it gave people a feeling of being unstoppable. The long stick hit the Blood Mountain sword, and the explosive power suddenly burst out. Jian Wushuang's body slightly shook, and then he immediately retreated. Blood Sword Master, I heard from Red Nether Master that you have a high-level offensive magic weapon. Take it out and don't hide it, said Shui Kong. As you wish. Jian Wushuang did not hesitate and immediately changed to the Absolute Shadow Divine Sword. With the Absolute Shadow Divine Sword in hand, the power of Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship instantly increased to a whole new level. Jian Wushuang's figure turned into a ghost and flashed out like lightning. In the blink of an eye, he was engaged in a fierce battle with Shui Kong, and his swordsmanship was completely unleashed. Shui Kong, on the other hand, had always looked relaxed and comfortable. He had only casually attacked Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship, but he had completely blocked it. It even caused a certain impact on Jian Wushuang's power. After dozens of collisions, Jian Wushuang's expression had become serious. Just as the information said, This Xue Kong master is much stronger than the Red Nether master I met before, Jian Wushuang thought to himself. The Red Nether master was only at an ordinary level among the principal's masters of the preliminary 6 realms. The Xue Kong master was also a principal's master of the preliminary 6 realms, but his strength, he was definitely very strong among principal's masters in the 6th realm. He was probably not far away from the advanced 6th realm. Jian Wushuang could slightly suppress the Red Nether master when he used his ultimate shadow sword in the battle with the Red Nether master. But now, he also used his ultimate shadow sword and displayed the strongest power other than the heaven-cleaving skill. In the end, Xue Kong master was still able to resist his sword skill. Judging from Xue Kong master's relaxed look, it was obvious that he had not used all of his strength. Blood Sword Master, I heard from Red Nether Master that you have also created an absolute art at the peak of stage 6. Can you show it to me? Xue Kong master said with a smile. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes and said in a cold voice, "In that case, you'd better watch carefully." Jian Wushuang did not hesitate at all. A powerful destructive will swept out. Jian Wushuang also slashed out with his shadow-exterminating divine sword. A terrifying sword light that covered the heaven and earth, with a monstrous fighting will that would not give up, directly slashed toward Xue Kong. Seeing Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship, Xue Kong's eyes flashed with a bright light. This is interesting. Xue Kong was still laughing, and his aura suddenly soared. A layer of black air current swept up from his body. This black air current was formed after the power of the destruction principles had materialized. Xue Kong was a principles master who had completely mastered the destruction principles. Moreover, his level of application and understanding of the destruction principles was frighteningly high. The black airflow completely covered the long staff in his hand. The long staff shook slightly and then smashed out with a rumble. Although this staff was only at the advanced stage of the 6th rank, the power of the staff shadow was definitely not weaker than Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. The whole world seemed to be about to explode. The air wave formed by the crazy collision of the 2 attacks swept up crazily and lifted up a large number of gravel below. However, at this moment, a sudden change occurred. A sudden angry roar suddenly sounded in the world. On the black ground below, one of the ground directly caved in. Soon after, a huge creature climbed out from the ground. This huge creature was over 5 meters tall. Its entire body was as black as ink, and its body was strange. Its body was about the same size as its head, and on its huge head, which proved that it was incomparably huge, it had 3 eyes and a big bloody mouth, but it did not have a nose. It also had thick arms, for arms, and on one of its arms was a giant silver axe. Such a monster suddenly emerged from the ground, and as soon as it appeared, a hair-raising violent aura filled the air. Seeing this huge monster suddenly emerge from the ground, Jian Wushuang's expression changed drastically. Oh no, it's a monster, a 9-curve monster unique to the 9 Twists Demon Cave. Xue Kong was also shocked. He could no longer care about the outcome of the battle with Jian Wushuang and immediately retreated. However, the monster emerged from the ground below them, and it happened to be the closest to Xue Kong. As soon as it appeared, the monster immediately pounced toward Xue Kong. Although the monster was big, its speed was shockingly fast. It was even faster than the speed of an ordinary expert of the 6th realm. It pounced in front of Xue Kong almost instantly. At the same time, the 4 arms also returned to Xue Kong. Xue Kong was extremely shocked and furious. He immediately swung the stone rod in his hand and smashed it at the monster. This hit blocked 3 of the monster's arms, but there was still the best arm that could not block it. The last arm happened to be the one holding the giant silver axe. The giant silver axe swung out from the monster's hand. Without any hindrance, it directly hit Xue Kong's body. Voila! The true treasure armor on Xue Kong's body was slashed with an extremely long white mark, and sparks flew in all directions. Fortunately, he was protected by the true treasure armor, and the monster did not know how to use any axe techniques. It only relied on brute force, so the axe did not cause much damage to him. Without the true treasure armor, or the treasure armor level is not high enough, cannot withstand this power, Blood Empty this time will definitely be seriously injured. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 3553, Silver Axe, Let's Go! Shui Kong immediately turned around and fled after taking the blow from the monster's axe. Let's go! Jian Wushuang also chose to flee without any hesitation. The monster initially wanted to chase after him, but it stopped after a short distance. It could not be helped. Although the monster was fast, its intelligence was very low. Both Jian Wushuang and Shui Kong could easily shake it off. Not long after, Jian Wushuang stopped in a void not far away. The Shui Kong master was fleeing in the same direction as him, so they gathered together again. Is that the monster from the Nine Twists Demon Cave? It's really terrifying. In terms of strength, the monster just now is not weaker than an ordinary expert of the Sixth Realm, Jian Wushuang thought. Blood Sword Master, did you see it? Shui Kong suddenly looked over. Of course I saw it. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. That monster was holding an axe? And it seems to be of a very high level. Of course it was high. The axe just now hit me. I felt it very clearly. Although my true treasure armor is only at the level of an elementary universe true treasure, it's the best among the elementary universe true treasure armors. Normally, even if an advanced universe true treasure hit my true treasure armor, my armor could at least resist 80 to 90% of its power. But when the monster's axe hit me just now, my true treasure armor could barely resist 50% of its power. What does that mean? Shui Kong Master looked a little excited. That means the axe in the monster's hand is a top-tier universe true treasure. Jian Wushuang said with a straight face. Yes, it's a top-tier universe true treasure. Shui Kong's eyes started to flicker. Universe true treasures were divided into elementary, advanced, top-tier, peak, and supreme true treasures. Among them, peak true treasures and aspiring supreme true treasures were treasures that even ruler realm experts coveted. Some of them did not even have supreme true treasures in their hands. Top-tier universe true treasures were not as valuable as pinnacle true treasures and supreme true treasures, but they were enough to make countless principles masters go crazy over them. In the true treasure treasury of Star Palace, top-tier universe true treasures could only be exchanged for 100 contribution points. Top-tier universe true treasures, even the most ordinary attack weapons, could be exchanged for more than 2,000 contribution points. It was 20 times higher than an advanced universe true treasure. One could imagine how powerful a top-tier true treasure was. There were not many true treasures in the Star Palace's true treasure vault, but Jian Wushuang had seen them before. There were only a few top-tier true treasures. But now, a top-tier true treasure appeared in front of Jian Wushuang? Sure enough, the opportunities and true treasures in the depths of Devil's Smoke Valley cannot be compared with those in the outer regions. It's rare to find an advanced true treasure in the outer regions, but now, in the Nine Twists Demon Cave, I have found a top-tier true treasure so quickly, Jian Wushuang muttered. Both he and Shui Kong Master were eager to see the silver axe in the monster's hand. Blood Sword Master, you're from Star Palace, right? Shui Kong suddenly asked. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. That's a pity, Shui Kong said with a smile. Pity? What do you mean? Jian Wushuang frowned. Blood Sword Master, you were there just now and saw the monster attack with your own eyes. You should know the strength of the monster. It's definitely at the high level of the Six Realms. In addition, it has a top-tier universe true treasure, so its battle strength will be stronger. To kill the monster, it's impossible for an expert at the peak of the Six Realms to get the axe from it, Shui Kong said. Yes, it is indeed possible to kill the monster by an expert at the pinnacle of the Sixth Realm or above, Jian Wushuang agreed. As far as I know, although your Star Palace has experts at the pinnacle of the Sixth Realm, there are none who are currently roaming in the Nine Twists Demon Cave. In other words, even if you send a message to Star Palace now, Star Palace can't send an expert to kill the monster in a short period of time. Am I right? Shui Kong said with a smile. That's right. Jian Wushuang nodded. That's right. The experts from your star palace can't arrive in time. There happens to be an expert at the pinnacle of the sixth realm in my force. I'll send a message to him now. He'll arrive here soon. Shui Kong smiled at Jian Wushuang. I see. Jian Wushuang smiled. He understood what Shui Kong meant and why he said he felt a little regretful. Apparently, Shui Kong thought that he could not summon an expert at the pinnacle of the sixth realm to kill the monster in a short time, so he could not get the axe, which was a top-tier universe supreme treasure. However, Shui Kong could summon an expert at the pinnacle of the sixth realm in a short time. Although both of them saw the monster and the axe in the monster's hand at the same time, if Jian Wushuang could not summon an expert to kill the monster in time, Shui Kong could naturally get the axe. Shui Kong Master, do you mean that whoever kills your monster first will get the axe? Jian Wushuang asked. Yes. Shui Kong nodded. Blood Sword Master, as long as you can get help from someone at the pinnacle of the sixth realm in a short period of time, you will be able to get the axe. Unfortunately, Shui Kong did not finish his words. That's good. As for the principal's master at the pinnacle of the sixth realm, I have a way to invite him, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Oh. Shui Kong frowned with a hint of surprise in his eyes. In his opinion, Jian Wushuang should not be able to invite an expert at the pinnacle of the sixth realm from Star Palace in a short period of time. Could it be that he can invite an expert outside of Star Palace? Shui Kong's heart sank. Shui Kong Master, I'll take my leave first. Jian Wushuang smiled slightly and turned around to fly in the direction of the monster. Seeing Jian Wushuang leave so confidently, Shui Kong felt even more uneasy. I'd like to see what Shui Kong Master is up to. Shui Kong frowned and followed him. Jian Wushuang had certainly noticed the existence of Shui Kong Master behind him, but he did not care. Instead, he went back the way he came. Soon, he returned to the place where he had met the monster. From afar, Jian Wushuang saw the black monster sitting cross-legged on the black ground in front of him. Fortunately, the monster has not returned to the ground in such a short time. Seeing that the monster was still there, Jian Wushuang also let out a sigh of relief. If the monster had returned to the ground, it would have been a lot more difficult for Jian Wushuang to find it. However, it was still on the ground and right under his nose. There was a great chance for Jian Wushuang to kill it. Chapter 3554. Killing the monster. Seeing that the monster had not returned to the ground, Jian Wushuang was ready to move. He flashed and used the shadowless escape art to approach the monster. The Blood Sword Master is approaching it? What is he trying to do? The Shui Kong Master was in the void far away. Seeing Jian Wushuang's action, his expression became even more strange. Is he planning to kill the monster by himself? Are you kidding me? With the monster's strength, it's impossible to kill it without the battle strength of the pinnacle of the sixth realm. Or does the Blood Sword Master have some kind of trump card that he can use to kill the monster? The Shui Kong Master murmured while he stared at Jian Wushuang attentively. Although Jian Wushuang had used the shadowless escape art, Shui Kong could still sense his presence with his strength. He could clearly see that Jian Wushuang had used the shadowless escape art to quietly approach the monster. Soon Jian Wushuang arrived near the monster, but the monster did not notice him at all. After all, although the monster had the battle strength equivalent to an advanced sixth realm expert, its soul strength was not as strong as that of the principal's master of the sixth realm of the void. Moreover, because the monster's intelligence was too low, it had almost no sense of danger. Is he going to make a move? Shui Kong frowned slightly. The next moment, his pupils suddenly shrank. He's going to make a move. Sure enough, Jian Wushuang, who was already close to the monster, had already made a move with lightning speed. Moreover, he appeared directly beside the monster and then displayed his swordsmanship. Swish! A blood shadow, like a blood-red flash, pierced toward the eye in the center of the monster's head with a shocking piercing force. The third move of the bloody sword skill. When Jian Wushuang chose to attack, he activated his life divine power and the heaven-cleaving skill. After using the heaven-cleaving skill, the power of the sword suddenly rose to a whole new level. The key was to attack suddenly. The monster did not notice it at all, but when it noticed it, the blood-red flash was less than 2 meters away from his head. At such a close distance, the monster could not even dodge. Chi! The blood-red flash directly pierced through the big eye in the center of the monster and came out from the other side of the head. Roar! With a hysterical roar, the monster instantly burst into action. 2 of its 4 thick arms held Jian Wushuang's absolute shadow divine sword, while the other 2 palms violently attacked Jian Wushuang. One of the 2 arms was holding onto the giant silver axe. Humph! Jian Wushuang snorted and twisted his wrist in a strange way. A shocking sword essence swept out and the absolute shadow sword rolled up, forming a wave of killing power that further damaged the monster's head. It also directly shook off the 2 arms that the monster was holding onto the absolute shadow divine sword. Then, Jian Wushuang exerted more strength with his right hand. He used the heaven-cleaving skill again, instantly bringing with it the power of an expert at the pinnacle of the 6th realm. The sword directly cut through the monster, and the sound of the blade entering the body rang out. The sword was as sharp as the Blood Mountain sword. Now that Jian Wushuang was using his full strength, the sword directly cut open the monster's head and continued to cut out. It actually cut off one of the monster's arms. After doing all this, Jian Wushuang immediately retreated and used the shadowless escape art again. Roar! Although the monster's head was open and looked terrible, its life was not completely cut off. Instead, it was still roaring crazily, trying to find Jian Wushuang's location. However, it could not find Jian Wushuang at all, so it could only get angry blindly. Jian Wushuang hid in the surrounding void and looked at the furious monster. It's a pity that the monster's life core is not on its head. It seems to be in its heart, Jian Wushuang murmured. Jian Wushuang had read the information of these monsters and knew how special they were. The monsters in the 9 Twists Demon Cave did not have immortal bodies like human cultivators. To be exact, they had immortal bodies, but the prerequisite was that their life cores were still there. The life cores were the core of these monsters and the source of all power. As long as the life cores were not broken, the monsters could regenerate even if their heads exploded and their bodies collapsed. However, as long as the life cores were broken, the monsters would still die even if there were no scars on their faces. However, because the life core was too important, these monsters protected their life cores very well. Under normal circumstances, these monsters would only put their life cores in 2 places, one in the middle of the head, the other place was where the heart was. Jian Wushuang did not know where the monster put its life core, so he tried to attack the monster's head first, relying on the shadowless escape skill and the bloody sword skill. In addition to the supreme power of his heaven-cleaving skill, he directly blew away the monster's head, but he failed to kill it. Since the life core was not in the monster's head, it had to be in its heart. After understanding this, Jian Wushuang attacked again. It had to be said that these monster experts were true, but they were still far inferior to cultivators in many aspects, except for the strength of a direct battle. For example, in terms of soul power, these monsters had almost no soul power at all. They relied on the simplest perception ability. However, they were very passive when they met a cultivator like Jian Wushuang, who had the ability to secretly think and move. Now, the monster was in a rage because of Jian Wushuang's sneak attack, but it could not find Jian Wushuang at all, so it had nowhere to vent its anger. Until Jian Wushuang attacked again, whoosh. The sword light swept out, and the heaven-cleaving skill was used again, slashing toward the monster from the side. This time, the monster was on guard and reacted in an instant. The arm holding the giant silver axe slashed out angrily. It did not use any axe skill, but simply relied on its own brute force. Jian Wushuang, who had used the heaven-cleaving skill, was definitely stronger than the monster. Bang! A low sound of collision was heard. The giant silver axe was thrown away, and the monster was also sent flying. I won't stop until I die. Jian Wushuang's eyes were cold, and a shocking destructive will suddenly rose up. He slashed the absolute shadow divine sword directly at the monster's chest, which was where its heart was. With a sense of hatred, he slashed at the monster's chest. The shocking power transmitted into the monster's body and instantly shattered its life nucleus. Chapter 3555. Shocking in just a split second, the monster was killed by Jian Wushuang. Of course, this was normal. After all, Jian Wushuang's battle strength was definitely at the peak of the 6th Void Realm after using the heaven-cleaving skill. In addition, he also had the shadowless escape skill, so he could make a sudden attack. Moreover, the monster had been severely injured by him from the beginning, and its strength had been greatly reduced. Under such circumstances, it was naturally very easy for Jian Wushuang to kill it. After killing the monster, Jian Wushuang went directly to the silver axe and picked it up. It really is a top-tier universe supreme treasure. The moment Jian Wushuang held the silver axe, he had already felt the power of the silver axe. Unfortunately, he did not use the axe as a weapon. When the silver axe fell into his hands, he could only use it to exchange for contribution points and then go to the Star Palace's Supreme Treasure Vault to exchange for other supreme treasures. Moreover, he had just arrived at the core area of Devil's Smoke Valley, so it was impossible for him to immediately go back and exchange it for contribution points. The Shui Kong Master must have seen me kill this monster. It seems that I have to think of a way to deal with him. Jian Wushuang smiled and said, "Well, he's already here." Jian Wushuang looked ahead and saw that the Shui Kong Master had come. However, when the Shui Kong Master appeared in front of Jian Wushuang, he looked shocked. It was just as Jian Wushuang had said. He had seen Jian Wushuang kill the monster the whole time. It was because of him that he was shocked and found it unbelievable. When he saw Jian Wushuang choose to attack the monster directly, he wondered if Jian Wushuang was dizzy and thought that he could kill the monster with his own strength. However, when he saw Jian Wushuang seriously injure the monster, he was immediately shocked. Later, when he saw Jian Wushuang attack again and easily kill the monster, he was completely stunned. He was indeed stunned. He had never expected that Jian Wushuang, who seemed to have used all of his strength when he fought with him, could only fight with him. He was even slightly weaker than Jian Wushuang. He had actually killed the monster alone, which could rival an advanced expert of the 6th realm. Now, he appeared in front of Jian Wushuang again. Apart from being shocked, he also had mixed feelings. "Blood Sword Master, did you hide your strength when you fought with me?" Shui Kong asked. "Not exactly. I did use my strongest strength when I fought with you, but I didn't use some of my trump cards. I was able to kill this monster because I used this trump card," Jian Wushuang said. He did not lie. The heaven-cleaving skill was indeed his trump card. Under normal circumstances, he did not intend to use this trump card. Trump card. Shui Kong Master still looked at Jian Wushuang deeply. He could see that when Jian Wushuang killed the monster, he did indeed burst out with the combat strength of the pinnacle of the 6th realm. And for a person whose combat strength was only in the initial stage of the 6th realm to burst out with the combat strength of the peak of the path, this trump card was really too strong. Shui Kong Master, although you and I discovered the axe at the same time, according to what you said before, whoever kills the monster first and gets the axe will get the axe. Now the axe is mine, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Of course, you have such a powerful trump card. No matter how much I think about the axe, I don't have the ability. It's a pity that the expert I invited came here for nothing. Shui Kong Master's expression had softened. Knowing that it was impossible to get the axe from Jian Wushuang again, the Shui Kong Master was relieved. Shui Kong Master, there's one more thing I need your help with, Jian Wushuang suddenly said. Help? Shui Kong looked at Jian Wushuang strangely. It's like this. Until now, not many people know about my trump card, but now that you know it, I want you to keep it for me. After all, it's best not to let too many people know about my trump card. I also don't want others to know about my axe, which is a top-tier universe supreme treasure, Jian Wushuang said. I understand. I can promise you that I won't tell anyone about this, but I'll still tell the force behind me about it, Shui Kong Master said. Jian Wushuang could not help but be speechless. If Shui Kong Master told the force behind him about his trump card, it would be no different from directly revealing it. Of course, I can report it later. Now, It'll only remind the people who have a certain relationship with me and are adventuring in the depths of Devil's Smoke Valley. How about it? Shui Kong Master said. Thank you. Jian Wushuang immediately smiled. It was only to tell a limited number of people. If it was not completely publicized, Jian Wushuang could still accept it. To be honest, although the Shui Kong Master saw him kill the monster with his heaven-cleaving skill, he did not know how many times he could use this trump card because Jian Wushuang killed the monster so quickly, or how long he could use it. At present, the Shui Kong Master probably only knew that he could release his battle strength at the pinnacle of the sixth realm in a short time, but he did not know how long it would take. Shui Kong Master, goodbye. Jian Wushuang said and left. This time, the Shui Kong Master did not follow him. He looked at Jian Wushuang's back and sighed. Then he left. Soon, Shui Kong Master returned to the place where he had met Red Nether Master. Shui Kong, are you going to kill Blood Sword Master? Red Nether Master immediately came up to him. Yes. Shui Kong Master nodded. What's the result? Although Blood Sword Master is not weak, he's still weaker than you, right? Red Nether Master said. I can't say much about this, because something unexpected happened midway, Shui Kong Master said. What happened? Red Nether Master asked. We encountered a monster on the way to battle, Shui Kong Master said. And then? Red Nether Master looked at Shui Kong Master. And then? Shui Kong Master hesitated for a while, but he still didn't tell him what had happened. However, he still said, I promised Blood Sword Master. There are some things that I can't tell him directly. However, you and I have some friendship. Let me remind you that if you meet Blood Sword Master alone in the future, you should try to avoid him. This Blood Sword Master is not as simple as you think. Oh! Shui Kong Master was surprised. Blood Sword Master was not as simple as he thought? He even said that he would try to avoid him if he met him alone in the future? What exactly happened when Shui Kong met Blood Sword Master? Red Nether Master could not figure it out, but Shui Kong Master did not say much and soon left. Chapter 3556 Shi Yen and Red Eye. After obtaining the axe, which was a top-tier universe supreme treasure, from the monster, Jian Wushuang continued to explore the Nine Twists Demon Cave alone. 30 years passed in a flash. In the Nine Twists Demon Cave, there was an endless pile of black stones. Bang! A loud bang shook the sky, and a powerful force swept across, shattering the rocks into pieces. So, an extremely wretched figure appeared from within that powerful force. This person was dressed in a black robe, and his face was thin. He had a pair of mustaches. His body trembled as he looked at the two people in front of him, and he roared angrily, Shi Yen Master, Red Eye Master, your Northern Sea Palace is really going too far. Going too far? Said a middle-aged man wearing a fiery red armor. His body was also surging with raging flames, and he looked like a flame war god. There was a sneer on the corner of the middle-aged man's mouth. Hung Yi, to think that you are a great being who has been adventuring in this universe battlefield for so many years. Why are you still so naive when you speak? In this world, the strong prey on the weak. Whoever has the biggest fist is the truth. Hand over your senior universe true treasure armor honestly. This way, Red Eye and I can let you live. Otherwise, the middle-aged man who looked like Flame War God, Shi Yen Master, had not finished his words, but the killing intent in his eyes had already revealed his intentions. Hung Yi handed over. If I join hands with stone hatred, you won't even be able to escape, Red Eye Master, a beautiful woman wearing a purplish-red robe and with a pair of strange red eyes, said. Under the combined threat of the two, even though Heng Yi Master was extremely unwilling, he still took out his high-level universe armor and threw it at Shi Yen Master. Then he immediately turned and fled. Seeing Heng Yi Master hand over his true treasure armor, Shi Yen Master and Red Eye Master had no intention of chasing after him. At least he is tactful. Otherwise, he would have died here. Red Eye Master smiled coldly. If it is possible not to kill him, then it is better not to kill him, Shi Yen Master said with a serious expression. Even though with our powers, it would be easy for us to kill him, but by doing so, we can be considered to have offended the faction behind him. If it was just this one time, then it would have been fine. North Sea Palace, where we are, is definitely one of the top 3 great factions in this territory. There is no need to care at all. But the most important thing is that we will continue to do so. If we kill them all, we will make too many enemies and bring trouble to the North Sea Palace. After all, we are not those lone wolves who can kill at will. They are not afraid of wearing shoes and can do whatever they want, but we can't. In the 3 great cosmic battlefields of this territory, although there were many experts who liked to killing everyone they saw just to plunder the treasures of the other party, but such experts, almost all of them were independent experts who did not have anything to worry about. Only such experts did not need to worry about anything. However, some experts who came from different astral worlds and different forces would not recklessly slaughter experts when they were roaming in the 3 great battlefields, because they would crazily slaughter others. The great beings from the forces behind others would also slaughter their own people crazily. In this way, both sides could only fight to the death, which was what no force wanted to see. Therefore, those great beings from different astral worlds and different forces would obey some restrictions when adventuring in the 3 great universe battlefields. Except for fighting for the chance of a true treasure, there was no definite reason. It was not easy for them to kill each other. For example, right now, Shuryen Master and Red Eye Master had the power to kill Hengyi Master, but they did not choose to kill him. They only forced him to hand over his senior true treasure armor. Although we can't kill him directly and take away all the treasures on his body, we can force him to hand over his most precious treasures on his own accord. That will be enough for us to make quite a fortune, said Shuryen Master. That's true. With our strength, we might not dare to say anything else, but in this 9 Twists Demon Cave, we should be able to do whatever we want. Other than those experts at the pinnacle of the 6th realm that we can't do anything to, the other principles masters below the 6th realm can only obediently hand over their strongest treasures when they encounter the 2 of us. Red Eye Master smiled strangely. Don't be happy too early. The 2 of us are working together to explore this place and force the experts we meet to hand over their strongest treasures. Although we won't encounter any obstacles in the beginning, as time passes, when this news spreads out and causes the experts of the 9 Twists Demon Cave to be on guard, our chances of succeeding will be greatly reduced. Therefore, we must make the most of our time. Before this news spreads out completely, we must find more experts and force them to hand over their most precious treasures. Shuryen Master said. In this territory, although the news of the various astral worlds and various powers were extremely well informed, after all, there were simply too many powers in this territory's astral world. Moreover, most of these astral worlds and powers had their own thoughts. Even if they obtained some news, they would not easily share it. Hence, the speed of the news flow was not too fast. For example, the Shuryen Master and the Red Eye Master were wantonly searching for prey in the 9 Twists Demon Cave. Even though they had already succeeded a few times, this news was still not widely known. Among the experts who were adventuring in the 9 Twists Demon Cave, most of them did not know about this matter and were not on guard. This period of time was the best time for them to hunt. If the news spread and the experts in the 9 Twists Demon Cave became wary of the 2 of them, their chances of success would be greatly reduced. As the 2 of them were talking, Red Eye Master's expression suddenly changed. There's a new prey, Red Eye Master said. Oh, who is it? Shuryen Master immediately looked over. Of the 2 of them, Shuryen Master specialized in direct combat, and his strength was extremely tyrannical. He had already reached the pinnacle of the 6th realm. As for Red Eye Master, although her combat strength was not strong, she had only barely reached the high level of the 6th realm. However, what Red Eye Master specialized in the most was her soul power. Her soul attack technique was incomparably tyrannical. Even experts at the pinnacle of the 6th realm would not dare to underestimate her soul attack. Her attainments in the soul aspect were so high that her soul perception ability was naturally terrifyingly strong. At the very least, she was stronger than the Shuryen Master. Just like now, the Shuryen Master did not sense the existence of other experts in the surroundings, but the Red Eye Master did. Chapter 3557. The Terrifying Duo. This aura is strange, and he looks like Blood Sword Master, Red-Eye Master said. Blood Sword Master? Shi-Yen Master raised his eyebrows. Jian Wushuang had been in the Nine Twists Demon Cave for 30 years. During this time, he had met some experts and interacted with them. Naturally, the news of his arrival spread. If it's really Blood Sword Master, it seems that we'll have something to gain, Shi-Yen Master said with a smile. Red-Eye Master also smiled. It said that although Blood Sword Master only has the battle strength of the initial stage of the 6th realm, his life-saving ability is quite good. This life-saving ability mainly comes from the fact that he has a high-level space-time type true treasure, which is likely to be an advanced space-time type universe true treasure. A high-level space-time type universe true treasure. Although I'm also good at space-time principles, I don't have a space-time type true treasure of this level either. There was a glimmer of light in Shi-Yen Master's eyes. If that's the case, then what are we waiting for? Let's hurry over and force him to hand over the space-time type true treasure, said Red-Eye Master. Of course, but let's make a deal first. His space-time type true treasure will belong to me in the end, said Shi-Yen Master. No problem. Red-Eye Master obviously did not care so much. The two immediately rushed toward Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang was still wandering around the Nine Twists Demon Cave alone. Except for the first encounter with the monster and the axe, which was a top-tier supreme treasure, he had not encountered any other opportunities or treasures in the past 30 years. As for the other experts, they had dealt with some people, but they did not fight for any supreme treasures or opportunities, nor did they use their full strength to fight with others. Suddenly thus, the surrounding void suddenly shook, and a powerful space-time power instantly covered the surrounding void. Space-time imprisonment? Jian Wushuang's face changed. One of his life-saving skills, space-time teleportation, ignored the flow of space-time. Ordinary space-time seals were useless against him, but once he used space-time imprisonment, he could not use this life-saving skill again. The fact that the other party directly used space-time imprisonment showed that he had a very good understanding of space-time principles. Most importantly, the other party came with bad intentions. Two figures suddenly appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang immediately recognized the two figures. So, you are the Shi-Yen Master and the Red-Eye Master from the North Sea Palace. What are you doing here? Jian Wushuang looked at the two people in front of him calmly. Blood Sword Master, you must have sensed that the space-time around you has been completely imprisoned. Don't you know our purpose? Shi-Yen Master looked at Jian Wushuang with interest. Jian Wushuang smiled and said, I don't think I've ever met you or provoked the North Sea Palace behind you. You've never provoked us, but that doesn't mean we can't take the initiative to provoke you. Shi-Yen Master sneered and said, Blood Sword Master, I can give you a chance. As long as you hand over your space-time universe supreme treasure, we'll let you go. What do you think? You want my treasure? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. He had long guessed the purpose of these two people. However, he did not expect that they would join hands to deal with him directly. Both Shi-Yen Master and Red-Eye Master were very famous in the universe battlefield. They were usually very difficult to deal with, let alone when they joined hands. It's impossible for me to hand over the supreme treasure obediently. If you really have the ability, you can take it from me, Jian Wushuang said. How dare you? In that case, we won't be polite, Shi-Yen Master said in a cold voice. Red-Eye, do it. Let him suffer a little first. When he knows how powerful he is, he will naturally behave himself. Red-Eye Master nodded slightly and then suddenly raised her head. As soon as she raised her head, her strange red eyes looked straight at Jian Wushuang and made eye contact with him at the first moment. In an instant, the scene in front of Jian Wushuang changed. Husband! A soft voice rang in Jian Wushuang's ears. A white-clothed woman stood in front of him. The moment she turned around, a peerless beauty that could topple cities and countries appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. This peerless beauty was very familiar to Jian Wushuang. It was his wife, Lung Rushuang. Not only her appearance and figure, but also her gaze and her aloof temperament were exactly the same as Lung Rushuang in his previous life. Jian Wushuang could hardly find any difference. "Husband, save me," Leng Rushuang said softly and extended her hand toward Jian Wushuang. Her beautiful and pitiful appearance made Jian Wushuang's body move involuntarily. He almost reached out to welcome her. However, Jian Wushuang immediately woke up. "Illusion. It's an illusion. It's so real and terrifying." The veins on Jian Wushuang's forehead bulged in an instant, and his willpower increased to the maximum. Break for me," Jian Wushuang roared crazily. His willpower had reached the maximum, and the surrounding illusion and the beautiful white-clothed woman in front of him began to tremble violently. In just a moment, the illusion completely collapsed, and Jian Wushuang's consciousness returned to reality. However, as soon as he regained his consciousness, he immediately noticed that the Shi master had appeared in front of him. His body was surging with flames, like a towering flame war god. The flame war god held a huge axe in his hand and was slashing at him fiercely. The shadow of the axe came down, and it created a huge sea of fire in the void. "Oh no!" Jian Wushuang's face changed. He had just escaped from the illusion, but he was immediately hit by the axe of Shi master. He did not have time to use any swordsmanship to block it, so he could only put the absolute shadow sword in front of him. Clang! The huge axe with endless flames and astonishing power struck the body of the absolute shadow sword. After all, the absolute shadow sword was a divine sword that focused on sharp cuts. The body of the sword was very thin, so it was impacted by the force. The entire body of the sword caved in and continued to hit Jian Wushuang with the axe shadow. Boom! In an instant, Jian Wushuang fell to the ground like a meteorite and finally hit the black ground below. A huge pit immediately appeared. Jian Wushuang had been smashed into the bottom of the hole. But in the next moment he rose to the sky again. Chapter 3558, Target, Red Eye. So powerful! Shi master is definitely an expert at the pinnacle of the sixth realm. Even if I try my best to use the heaven-cleaving skill, I might not be his match. Besides, he has the help of Red Eye Master. Her illusion is also very difficult to deal with. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes slightly. It was normal for him to be no match for Shi Master. As for the Red Eye Master, if she was only good at soul attacks, Jian Wushuang would not take her seriously no matter how powerful her soul attacks were. However, the key was that the Red Eye Master was not only good at soul attacks, but also at all kinds of illusions. The illusions were so real that they allowed him to enter them silently. It would take him some time to crack them. During this time, Shi Master could attack him at will. With the two of them together, Jian Wushuang had no intention of fighting them at all. "Let's go!" Jian Wushuang did not hesitate at all. After rising up from the pit, he immediately burst out of the void to the side. "Do you think you can escape?" Shi Master smiled coldly. In an instant, a wave of space-time power swept out. At the same time, the raging flames on his body turned into a sea of fire and spread to the surroundings. Jian Wushuang's expression changed. He had already felt the space-time power binding him and the crazy suppression of the sea of fire. As expected of an expert from the North Sea Palace. His family background is really extravagant. Not only does he have a space-time type universe supreme treasure, but he also has a domain-type universe supreme treasure. When the two are combined, the suppression and restriction on me are too great. Jian Wushuang was secretly shocked. He immediately took out the golden sky painting flag and used his time-space domain. Although his time-space domain had instantly cancelled out the restriction of the time-space type true treasure, he could not affect the suppression of the domain-type true treasure. He was still greatly suppressed by the domain. His speed was still greatly restricted. However, the speed of the two masters was not affected at all. They had already caught up with him, especially the Shi Master. As an expert at the pinnacle of the sixth realm, his speed was already faster than Jian Wushuang's. Now that he had caught up, it would not take long for him to catch up with Jian Wushuang. "Shi Master, I don't have any enmity with you two. Why do you need to keep chasing me?" Jian Wushuang said. I've already said that as long as you hand over the space-time treasure, I'll let you go." But if you don't want to, then it's not my fault. Shiyan Master sneered. It seems that there's no point in talking about it. In that case, let's fight. Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed with a sharp light. He had been frantically running forward, but at this moment he suddenly turned around. He was charging straight at Shiyan Master. How dare you? Shiyan Master laughed loudly. Jian Wushuang's eyes were as cold as ice. He did not appear directly in front of Shiyan Master. Instead, he appeared at the side of Shiyan Master. At the same time, he slashed out with his ultimate shadow sword. He still had not used his heaven-cleaving skill. He had only activated his life divine power, which was comparable to that of an elementary principles master of the sixth realm. You overestimate yourself. Shiyan Master looked down on him. His body was covered in flames, and the axe in his hand was like a shooting star as it smashed directly onto the absolute shadow divine sword. Clang! With a loud sound, the strength of the axe exploded, and Jian Wushuang was immediately sent flying into the void to the side. Unfortunately, he was sent flying in the direction where the Red-Eye Master was coming from. In other words, Jian Wushuang was able to close the distance between him and the Red-Eye Master. As a result, the moment he regained his balance, he went straight for the Red-Eye Master. His eyes suddenly burst with killing intent. The Red-Eye Master frowned, and a look of surprise flashed through her eyes. However, she was not afraid at all. Although she was not good at fighting head-on, she had to deal with an elementary level 6 realm principles master head-on. It's pretty easy. Moreover, although Jian Wushuang closed the distance between them and attacked her in an instant, she still had time to react. The moment Jian Wushuang attacked her, her soul power burst out. Soul Blast! The Red-Eye Master growled, showing no mercy. The majestic soul power formed an invisible all in an instant and crashed directly into Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang could not dodge this silent soul attack, but he had never thought of dodging it. He just let the terrifying soul attack hit him directly. It was known that the Red-Eye Master was famous for her soul skills. Even experts at the pinnacle of the sixth realm would not dare to underestimate her soul attack. The soul attack was also one of her trump cards. Under normal circumstances, she could kill an expert of the sixth realm directly. However, when the soul blast hit Jian Wushuang, he only shook his body, but he did not stop at all. He continued to attack her. What? Red-Eye Master was shocked. She never expected that Blood Sword Master would be able to withstand her soul blast with all her strength without even stopping. I will not rest until I die. Jian Wushuang's killing intent sword, the heaven-cleaving skill, which he had not used until now, completely exploded at this moment. An overwhelming destructive will rose up, carrying a sense of hatred that would not rest until death. In an instant, it turned into a brilliant purple sword light and slashed toward Red-Eye Master. Oh no! The Red-Eye Master's expression changed. A cyan-long spear immediately appeared in her hand and she faced the sword light. She had thought that although she was not good at fighting head-on, it would be relatively easy for her to deal with an ordinary principles master of the initial stage of the sixth realm. However, at the moment when his long spear collided with the sword light, she was completely stunned. How can it be so powerful? Red-Eye Master was shocked. The sword light that Jian Wushuang displayed brought her a terrifying pressure that suffocated her. The power of the sword light was too strong. Almost in an instant, it shook away her long spear. Then, the sword light continued to slash at her divine body. Bang! Red-Eye Master had the armor of an advanced universe true treasure, so the surface of her divine body was not damaged. However, a lot of the power still passed into her body and severely injured her. More than 30% of her godly power was annihilated at once. However, this was not the end. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.